Can I remind you to switch off your mobile phones or make sure they're on silent? Can I also ask, you've been a really good delegation and audience, but their days are long and some people are saying that there's a bit of chit-chat which makes it difficult for them to hear the speakers. So can I just ask you please to not have conversations. If you want a really good conversation, go and get yourself a cup of tea outside and not in the hall. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the fringes and the exhibitions. And just to provide a bit of clarification on this morning's debate, Congress agreed to the motion 369 be referred, in case there was any confusion about that. We will now debate the Finance Rule Amendments as the first business of this session. Could speakers on Rule Amendment 468 please make their way to the front, and speakers on Rule Amendments 484, 485 and 487 please get ready. Just to explain the procedure, the General Secretary will respond to these rule amendments and motions on behalf of the CEC when he moves the finance report, and then I will take votes on the finance report and then these rule amendments and motions. Thank you. Can speakers on motions 53, 69, 70, 83 and Composite 2 also please make themselves ready, as this group of motions will be debated next. And Congress, please be advised that Ben Courts and Morgan Holmes from BDO, who are the union's external auditors, are in the hall. Ooh. So can I have the mover, please, of 468? Jan.
President Congress, Jan Smith. Our region would like to raise a point of order before the start of this finance debate to request that the Chair President ask Congress if we can have the CEC finance report voted on by section or paragraph. This is in accordance with agreed Congress procedures listed in the beginning of the final agenda, namely Motion 144 carried at Congress in 1993. This allows all documents provided by the CEC to be voted on by paragraph or section if Congress agrees. In that way, any region can oppose or question parts of the report without rejecting the full report in its entirety. So, point of order, please.
Thank you. You're testing me now, aren't you? This is where it all goes horribly wrong. Right. A point of order may be raised on paragraph. A point of order can be raised for each paragraph to be approved. But I have to put that point of order to the vote. Yeah. The CEC's position is that as a consequence of the CEC having approved the finance report, it is one document, and to move the finance report as a whole and therefore oppose this point of order, the proposal to vote on individual paragraphs. So I'll put that point of order to the vote. All those in favour of taking this report paragraph by paragraph, please show. All those against? That's lost, that point of order, sorry. So we will now take the finance report as a whole, but can I have mover of 468, please?
President, Congress, Rachel Hookway, London Region, moving Rule Amendment 468. This rule amendment is simple and straightforward. It does not remove wording or substitute clauses or sentences. But what it does do is give clarity to branches and those within the branch as to what will happen to their financial reports are not submitted quarter on quarter. Currently, Rule 34.5 tells us that a branch will not receive the next quarter's payment if they do not submit their quarterly report. This is all fine in itself. When a new branch secretary is elected, it needs to be made clear what will happen should a branch continue not to submit their reports. There can be no easier way to give clarification than through the rule book. London Region is developing a new branch secretary handbook to complement the training we provide. We've pulled out a number of rules and incorporated them into the handbook, again, to help, assist and provide clarity. If carried, we would include this new clause in the handbook. The CEC will be asking you to oppose this motion. We have no intention of withdrawing. When the CEC speaker comes to the rostrum, he or she will tell you the amendment does not enhance the GMB's ability to protect members' money and avoid fraud. But colleagues, this is not correct. Yes, there are powers under rule to deal with any financial irregularities. However, these are to be found in other parts of the rule book, whereas this amendment is just a new clause coming under the title of the rule, payments to branches. What could be easier? You will also hear from the CEC that it is not clear what is meant in having the account suspended, and should the account not be with Unity Bank, then it would be very difficult to suspend the account. We do not accept this to be correct either. We could simply write to the bank in question, setting out the facts, and I'm certain the account would be suspended. Congress, this is about enhancing our ability to protect our members' money, regardless of what the CEC says. Surely by incorporating an additional clause, this in itself is enhancing the very thing we are seeking to protect. It really is that simple, so please support this rule amendment. I move.
Thank you, Rachel. Seconder?
Sarah Hurley, London Region, seconding Rule Amendment 468, payment to branches. President, Congress, this rule must be changed. This rule amendment does enhance the union's ability to protect the members' money, and if we don't do it, more branches will experience what I have. I am aware of a branch that did not submit the accounts to the NAU for several months. So the NAU stopped paying the branch its commission. Fair enough. But this did not stop an individual emptying the branch account of all existing funds, leaving the account empty. This paralysed the branch, leaving it unable to support any shop steward and much more beside. The existing rule does not protect the existing funds in the account, only the money due. So Congress, please support this motion and protect our members' money properly. I second.
Mover of motion 484.
Stephen Robertson, Birmingham West Midlands Region, moving Rule Change 484, funeral benefits. Good afternoon, brothers, sisters, comrades, President. This motion is about changing and making a rule that is unfair more fair. This is about a rule that excludes some of our members because they're not considered to have been a member for long enough. This rule puts out a message that says our new members, families, that it says to their families that their sons, daughters, husbands, wives, partners and parents who have passed away, they're not good enough to receive this token payment because they've only served as a member for 2, 3, 4 years. There are some new members who have done more for this union in 2 years than other members have done in 20 or 30 years. What about some of our brilliant young activists who are the life and breath of the GMB, but have only left school a couple of years ago? If any of them were to, God forbid, cop it, pass away, would any of you want to tell their parents that because of this rule in the rule book, that their sons or daughters was not worthy, eligible or good enough? It's like they're second-class members. This is a benefit that no member wants to really claim, just yet anyway, and not within 5 years of joining. I've said it before and I'll say it again, it's discriminatory, it's just wrong and a total embarrassment to the GMB. All other benefits are available for either day one or after 1 year. I wondered if this was normal practice within the trade union movement, but taking a wee look at it, some of the bigger unions like us look to see what they've done with their qualifying periods for funeral benefits. Us though, 1 year, PCS and Unite 6 months, Unison 4 weeks, the CW for day one, and then there's us, the GMB, 5 years. The CAC will no doubt tell us that they can't afford to make this change. The sky will fall in and it'll break the bank, but this is just not true. They tried to tell us that prior to 2013, when the qualifying period dropped for 8 years, dropped by 3 years, from 8 years to 5 years. They told us, oh, it costs far too much. But that increase in the funeral benefit and how much the funeral benefits were paid out by the GMB the following year was £5,000. It went up what we paid out for £375,000 to £380,000. We couldn't afford, they were trying to tell us they couldn't afford that. You know, when this union can give 50 grand to the Mirror to put on a party, no, surely we can afford to make new members when they join one of us, and if they happen to pass away. It's time for a further drop in the qualifying period, which, as we've already seen, would not cost an arm and a leg. This is an outdated and unneeded clause in Rule 53, and it needs to be removed.
Stephen, you've got the red light.
If we want to truly claim that we are a fully inclusive union and we look after our members, do we want to continue to be a union that excludes our new members and young members?
Can you conclude, please?
Just because they happen to be deed members. Let's look after our deed members as well as our living members. And I ask you to please support this. Okay, Barbara, please support this. And it's a shameful clause.
Thank you, Stephen. Seconder 484.
Good afternoon, President. Good afternoon, Congress and visitors. Christina Dearlove, Birmingham West Midlands Region, seconding rule change 484 funeral benefit. As a union that stands strong for equality and makes everyone feel equal and included, this rule change clearly makes some people not out of date and makes them feel second-class citizens and doesn't treat them equal. How can we, the GMB, truly promote equality and inclusion when we have this one rule that discriminates against young members and excludes those like me that only discovered the GMB family recently? The exclusion of members who joined recently needs to stop. It should stop now. This rule change is there to stop those like me who have only been here 2 years feel like second-class citizens. Those who know me know I've become more and more active since I joined the GMB family a few years ago, and I plan to hopefully carry on and be around and active for some time to come. If I was to pop my clogs tomorrow, Stevie, my branch secretary, would have the embarrassment and shame of having to inform my family I'm not eligible to qualify and that I was not good enough. My life wasn't valued as much as some of those that have been inactive members who have been around for 10, 15, even 20 years. This isn't right. This isn't fair, and it's not what the GMB, to me, stands for. I'm so proud of being part of GMB, but this one is wrong. This is not even about the money. It's about the principle of the clause. Simply wrong and needs to be removed, and removed now. I ask everyone in this hall who believes in inclusion and equality for members to stand shoulder to shoulder with our region in this and to support us with this motion. and vote against the CEC, who have asked us to withdraw. I second.
Thank you, Christina. Mover on motion 485.
Heather Hamblin, London Region, moving Rule Amendment for A485. President, Congress, we are disappointed that the increase in funeral benefit is just £25, especially as this hasn't changed for 4 years. On the last 2 occasions, funeral benefit has been looked at and was increased of £50 in 2011 and £50 again in 2015. Why have you chosen to increase it by only £25 this time? We know the cost of funerals increases every year, and this has prompted the Competition and Markets Authority to launch a full inquiry into the funeral industry. They have since reported that the essential cost of a funeral has increased by almost 3 times the rate of inflation year on year. There had been a 68% increase in funeral director prices over the last 10 years, where the average cost of a funeral is between £3,000 and £5,000. So a £25 increase in half benefit won't buy a tray of finger sandwiches for the wake. Also, a rule amendment calls for a change in the qualifying period for funeral benefit to decrease from 5 years to 3 years, so that members who have lost loved ones can qualify for this much needed benefit sooner. After all, many will have paid in enough in contributions to cover this. Please support. I move.
Thank you, Heather. Seconder? Formally, thank you, London. Mover on 487.
President, Congress, Tarrant-Chana, London Region, moving Rule Amendment 487. Rule Amendment 487 asks for a rule that any arrears in contribution be deducted from the funeral payment on death. The current funeral payments is £350, and the finance report says it will increase it to £375. As we know, £375 does not buy much these days. We are a union of passion. We agitate, we organise, we challenge. We are also a union of compassion who strive to make an unequal society equal and unfairness into fair. Taking contribution arrears from funeral payment is just so morally wrong. It's like we're taking the dead pennies of a dead person's eyes. We are a union, a genuine union, of many who are struggling to make ends meet. The least that we can do is to show dignity at a time of a member's death, at a time of grief. We should give rather than take. So please, Congress, support this rule amendment.
Thank you, Taranji. Is there a seconder? Is it formally? Thank you. Does anyone wish to oppose any of these motions? No? Okay. Thank you. We will now move on to the next group of motions, and votes will be taken after the finance report. So could I have mover of motion 53, please? 53, C2, Composite 2, 69, 70 and 83. Could they all come to the front as well, please? So mover of motion 53. Sorry, I thought I'd called those.
As young as used to be, can't run as fast. Good afternoon. President, Congress, John Dolan, GMB Scotland, moving motions 53, Fighting Fund. Congress currently, under rule, members taking strike action or industrial action are not entitled to any benefit until after 3 days. This motion seeks the formation of a fund, Fighting Fund, where every branch would pay a percentage from source into the fund, with each region having their own autonomy over that fund. Payments could then, would then commence from day one of action, then be supplemented at day 3 from the CEC as per rule. This would mitigate potential loss of members to other unions who do pay from day one. Thus, and also prevent branches from having to put out begging letters to support their members. I move.
Thank you, John. Is there a seconder? Is there a seconder? Formally, thank you. Composite 2.
President, Congress, good afternoon. Wayne Oswick, London Region, moving Composite 2 for motions 59, 60 on accompanying Rep 6 funding. Colleagues, comrades, can I ask you to think through this motion whilst I give you my explanation to why the accompanying Rep is a vital service to our membership. Our great union is built on being a generalised union from all industries, trades and professions. We have so many members across each region without workplace support, resulting in the only contact being a regional office that they have no knowledge on who they will be speaking to when they phone. These members deserve our support. Thus, accompanying reps are on hand to represent them on their hour of need. To most branches, an accompanying rep is a vital resource to have in the region, but a simplified honorarium payment needs to be made or implemented. These dedicated representatives travel miles to help in meetings, which may take up to several hours, and have more hours on top of that to conclude. They then complete their reports, expenses forms, which they then take up to possibly 2 hours from home, which they have to send into their branch who requested their representation. Unfortunately, they may miss the deadline for the honorarium, which is paid on a quarterly basis. We all know this. Resulting in a wait of a further unfortunately, they may miss the deadline for that quarter, and this would result in a wait for a further 3 months before it may go through to the next quarter, taking a total of up to 6 months before they get their representation for money. Our proposal would be that each region has a pool of reps listed. This would assist the rep to complete the meeting's expenses, send them direct to regional office. Each RFO knows their pool of reps, so payment could be made monthly on a taxable payment scheme similar to the quarterly honorarium, but the rep is getting the money quicker. Once this monthly payment is made, the RFO would subtract the expenses from the branch's commission that requested the representation at the source from the NAU quarterly payment. This only applies to the expenses for the meeting, not the travel or the subs. The branch will pay directly to the rep, the subs and travel. This, we feel, may encourage more colleagues to use the knowledge and wisdom as they accompany their members to the meetings, thus ensuring that our remote members around each region would get the best possible advice and help available. As we stand presently, we are seeing a steady incline in reps around the branches across each region, so the resources for the meetings is getting smaller each month. Comrades, the action we take today in supporting this motion will see a higher increase in representation, resulting in retention figures going up across the regions, thus ensuring a stronger GMB union. Just by the way, the CEC are seeking for withdrawal of this, but I'm looking for your much support as I can to overturn that seek of withdrawal. Please support, I move.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
Good afternoon, President, Congress and visitors. Pushpa Makwana, London Region, seconding composite motion 2. Congress, we believe a company rep should be paid at the time they're presenting numbers and the travel expenses from their region. Let me explain and give you an example. Matilda, our company rep, she became a branch official, and the journey had gone through a company rep. Was like a roller coaster. Although she was out of work for a good few months, not getting paid, she couldn't claim any benefits. Matilda tells me that she gets an email or a call from a head office to attend a meeting last minute. Once she attends the meeting, then she had to fill in expenses forms and post it back to the branch where she has been presenting for. Matilda also mentioned once she filled the forms in, she won't get paid until that quarter. Congress, our Matilda missed sending her forms in. She missed her quarter deadline. Then this is where she had to wait 6 months, the payments to be paid due to her honoraria payment system. It has a big impact on her finance situation because she has not claimed her per calendar month. There were far too many forms to fill in. It was really time-consuming too. Congress, it's not consistent work, it's casual work. This has been hard and difficult for someone who has have to put the food on the table and pay their utility bills, even including their childcare. I agree with my colleague, a simplified system would help someone like Matilda and would encourage more people to possibly become reps, which can only be good on the membership in their hour need and help retain membership. Congress, please support this motion.
Well done, Pushpa. Thank you. Mover of motion 69.
Worthy President, brothers and sisters, moving Kevin Flanagan, North Western Irish Region, moving motion 69. Read the motion. It's carefully worded to say that the union should look at a different subscription system based on the pay of members. There's good reason for this, is that the world of work has changed. The tier 1 and the tier 2, scale 1, scale 2, call it what you like, grade 1, grade 2, was more linked to the old industrial system, where people were actually in secure work, where either people were part-time or full-time. Look at the reality of the world of work now. We've got people who don't even know how many hours they're going to work a week, let alone the fact that many, for instance, if they're 1 hour over this rule, they will actually pay the full rate. Even though they're only earning 22 hours a week, they'll be on the full-time rate. Conference, it's time that we looked at this. And this is carefully worded to allow for a study to be done and a report to come back to you at Congress as to the feasibility of this issue and to bring, if necessary, any rule changes. In other words, it places control on the floor of this Congress. So this is not committing you immediately to do something foolish, but it is committing you to undertake a report and a study. I know that the CEC are going to oppose this and are going to ask you to vote against it. But think about the insecure world of work. Think about the low-paid workers. Think about those who are in difficult work situations. It is important that we get a good subscription system that reflects the reality of the modern working environment. I ask you to support this. Maybe I can win one to this week. One. Because I think it's important, because it will come back to you for decision. So by opposing it, you're opposing looking at this all together. And I'm saying, look at it, bring the report back, and we'll have a vote on it in a future year. Is that radical? No, it isn't. It isn't. It's in your hands, Congress. And I'm a passionate believer in the democracy of this floor and preserving the democracy of this floor. So by opposing it, you wipe away the chance of looking at this. I ask you to oppose reference back and to vote for it overwhelmingly, so that at least all we get is a report and some proposals about a possible new way of paying for the subscriptions of members that may be more commensurate with the needs of ordinary working people up and down this country. because I feel it hard asking insecure worker to pay their rate too when I know the work situation they're in. And I know in a number of situations it is a barrier to recruitment. So we do need to look at it. We do need to have a report. We do need to have a careful study of this. This is not radical. This is not going to overturn the union overnight. So let's win this one. I ask you to vote for it and to actually get a proper study done so that it comes back to this conference. Is that fair, conference? I thought it was. Thank you. I move.
Thank you, Kevin. Is there a seconder? Is there a seconder or is it formally seconded? Thank you. Is it formally seconded by the region? Because you can't, the mover and the seconder can't be the same person. Thank you. Can I ask for a mover of motion 70 then, please?
President Congress, Jashuklal Darcy, into bracket JD, London region, moving motion 70, contributions. Although Congress accepted the finance report last year, you will see that many other regions put motion into the primarily agenda about looking at other way of paying contributions. This should incident that members are not happy with the current contribution scale. We all know it is a struggle every year when contributions are increased. We all know that many more workers are working 0 hours. We know that many workplaces have not had hug increase in pay. The CEC response is that a review of contributions had been carried out. The CEC response is that detailed reports have been available on Congress, but we have not seen them. Was this just left to a committee where all members consulted? What options were looked at? What were the reason for rejecting some other way of paying? Our branch did think about putting in a rules amendment to look at a sliding scale so that those who earned more paid more and those who earned less paid less. Why should someone on minimum wages pay the sum as a CEO getting the same level of service? Other unions do this. Why cannot GMB? Please support. I move. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Seconder? Can I ask, when you come down to the front, if there's, no, just keep going. When the, can you sit on the chairs that are closest to the, that way that would be quicker. Yeah, thank you. Just makes it just a bit speed up.
President Congress, first time delegate. Varsa Unadkat, London region, seconding motion 70 on contribution. Congress, as you heard from the mover, we should be looking at today's workplace and working patterns. Our motion asks Congress to support a GMB with a future and asks that a sliding scale contribution structure be fully costed and reported on to all. We know the CEC is opposing this as they say they have already looked at it, but we want to see what they have examined. Our CEC members have information the branch that following a debate at the April CEC meeting, there would be a report produced showing the impact of introducing a slide scale of contribution. Congress, we will welcome this and hope that this report will show fully costing and that the report is made available to our branch and all members. Please supporting. I second.
Move of motion 83.
President Congress, Jasuklal Darcy, into bracket JD, London Region, moving motion 83 on communication to members. Surely no one can disagree that all leave members paying contribution should be treated the same. Whether members pay be direct debit or check, they should be informed of any changes to contribution equally. We wrote this motion as the contributions were increased. Last year's direct debit members were sent a letter, but check of members were not informed in the same way. We know that direct debit members are bound to banking regulation, and as such, the union must inform them any increases. We need assurance that this will be addressed and call for the union to look at how they communicate to members. And we are pleased that this motion is being referred for further investigation. Please support. I move.
Thank you. Well done. Seconder.
President Congress, first time delegate. Varsha Unadkat, London region, first time delegate, seconding motion 83. I just wanted to add that we understand that in the one union approach, national office have looked into how and when they send communication to members. This is very important, especially when contribution increase. We do not want the first and only contribution to a member to be telling them that the union need more money from them. This may leave a member the only option but to leave the union. The CEC states that any changes to check of payer should be the responsible of the region. If that is the case, then everyone in this room today must make sure that the region has a correct record of your contact details. Please support. I second.
Well done. Does anybody wish to oppose any of these motions? Okay. Can you make it clear which one you're opposing?
President, Congress, Annette Riley, GMB Scotland, rising to oppose Composite 2. The way that a branch secretary runs with its accompanying reps is that the branch secretary makes payments, not the regional offices. And I, for one, am not having a regional office sending accompanying reps into my branch without me knowing and then payment coming out. So I'm asking you to oppose.
John Stevenson, Yorkshire and North Derbyshire. Wake up! Thank you. I'm opposing Composite 2. If you read the wording, I have no problem in trying to get people payment as soon as we possibly can, but this has the danger of pulling branch accompanying reps in with all the things that we've just heard about the region, then paying them, allocating them. We've got a system in branches where if we want them, we can have them, we pay it, it's agreed, it works. Don't change it. I oppose.
Thank you, John. Does Is it Wayne? You moved it. Do you want the right of reply? No? No? Okay. Thank you. In that case, can I remind delegates that if the finance report is carried, rule amendments and motions that stand in opposition to it will fall and not be voted on. But I now call on the General Secretary, Tim Roach, to respond to the debate and to move the finance report.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Congress. Good afternoon, President. Tim Roach, General Secretary and Treasurer, replying on behalf of the CEC to Rule Amendments 468, 484, 485, 487, Composite 2 and motions 53, 69 and 70. On Rule Amendment 468, let me just remind Conference what happens now. If a branch fails to register your branch financial return, no commission or honoraria are paid out from the National Administration Unit. Regions then run their own quarterly financial report, and this should flag up that a branch hasn't received their honoraria or commission. At that stage, it's the region's responsibility to contact the branch and say to the branch what's going on. I suggest this motion is in response to an incident where a branch secretary has stolen 18 grand of members' money. This rule change, proposed rule change, won't make a blind bit of difference to that. In fact, it will potentially make it worse. What this suggests is that after 4 quarters, we then freeze the bank account. Do we really wait a year when the current structure is that you only wait a quarter before we should take action? We can't propose rule changes to respond to an individual, isolated, unfortunate incident, Conference. What I'm saying as well is about this freezing of bank accounts. I heard what the mover said, but frankly, Rachel, it's wrong. If a branch, which is why it's Congress policy, banks with Unity Trust, we can freeze that account. But try going to the Royal Bank of Scotland or Barclays. If the bank account is a GMB account and it's registered in the names of 2 branch secretary and presidents, we can't freeze that account. So I'm afraid that proposed rule amendment will take us backwards, and I ask for it to be withdrawn. Rule Amendments 484 and 485 deal with funeral benefit, and there are proposals in the financial report on this benefit. The CEC believes we should continue our policy of gradual increases while maintaining the membership qualifications, so we're asking again for withdrawal. Rule Amendment 487 provides that we drop the clawback of funeral benefit from fatal accident benefit, and that is in the CEC finance proposals, but it also prevents the union from recovering contribution arrears, so we ask for withdrawal on that basis. On motions 69 and 70 about a sliding scale of contribution, let me be clear about this to Kevin and to colleagues in this hall. Whether this motion is passed or carried or not will not make a blind bit of difference to the Central Executive Council. What do I mean by that? We will continually and always review our income and our members' contributions and its affordability. And if overall it is felt that we go to a sliding scale and this Congress adopts that, that's what we'll do. But we'll do it with our eyes wide open, colleagues. And no union has fought harder nor done more in the insecure work and abusive gig economy. But to just suggest that not having a sliding scale is a barrier to recruitment is frankly nonsense. We don't have an issue with recruitment in this union. We recruit over 80,000 members every single year. But if we go to a sliding scale, be aware, be warned, that at the top of our scales, our top higher earning members, and it may be many of us in this room, I don't know what higher earning means, but if we're going to subsidise people at the bottom, the contribution rates of many of us in this room would go through the roof. That would, I suggest, result in huge numbers of people dropping out. So we have to look at it in the round. We have to always operate as a financially secure business, and most importantly of all, colleagues, we must always ensure that our members, whatever they pay, feel that they are getting value for their contribution. That means a good service, good support, building their organisation and making a difference for them in their workplace. Motion 83 states that it's unfair that direct debit members are notified of the contribution increase while check-off members are not. Colleagues, the system applied by Congress for years is that informing check-off members is a matter for the region, because regions know your membership, you know whether it's timely and sensitive to inform the members about the increase. An individual letter or email has to go to direct debit members because of banking regulations. So we handle that nationally. But check-off members are a regional responsibility. We're reviewing communications, and this will be taken into account by another all-member mail-out, which this would require, is a very expensive business indeed. Motion 53 wants the CEC to consider options for a fighting fund to support members in dispute. There is, of course, already a dispute fund, but I'm very mindful that that may not be sufficient. We're asking for reference. We think the motion makes sense. We get the sentiment of it as well, not least on the back of what happened in Glasgow, and we will certainly look, if the mover agrees to refer, to see if we can do something different and something better. Composite 2, I think the opposition has really said it all. Not all regions operate accompanying reps, and where they do, generally the payment system works and is fair. If there are improvements to be made, we're always willing to listen, and I've asked my colleagues in the National Administration Unit to ensure that all payments administered from there to accompanying reps are made as quickly as possible. We understand we never want our members, let alone our reps who do such a bloody good job, to be out of pocket for a moment longer than they need to. But we also have to protect ourselves from the HMRC. Payments need to be made from the bank payroll system for that purpose. So, Congress, the CEC is asking for the withdrawal of Rule Amendments 468, 484, 485 and 487, motions 83 and Composite 2, and we ask you to oppose 69 and 70 and to refer motion 53. I'll now answer the questions on the accounts, then I'll move the adoption of the accounts, then I'll introduce the financial proposals. So the documents I'm referring to now, and hopefully you've all got them, is the financial statements booklet and the financial proposals for Congress addendum. Has everybody got a copy of that so that you know what we're talking about, or at least you can look over somebody's shoulder? I'll have a sip of water. Okay. Congress, the 2018 accounts are in the document entitled Financial Statements, and I've received 3 written questions on the accounts from London Region. Page 12 on investments. I'll read you the 3 questions, then I'll give you the replies. Page 12, investments. This is the first question. The accounts indicate that the £11 million investment of gilts as at 31st of December 2018 has been disposed of. This amounted to 50% of investment assets in terms of historic costs. Gilts are shown as nil for the year end 31st of December 2018. Gilts are an important investment category that is almost always designed to be a significant proportion of stable funds. Why has GMB disposed of its investment in gilts? Question 2, page 14, Union Line. GMB made a loan of £5.4 million to Union Line in the year 31st of December 2018. The accounts state that the rate of interest is a commercial one. The total amount accrued at 31st of December is £6.1 million. What is the commercial interest rate charged? Of the £6.1 million, how much is accrued in interest? How much in interest payments did Union Line pay in the year ended 31st of December 2018? And page 2, operating surplus for the year. This is question 3. The historic cost of investments has only increased from £22 million to £23 million from 31st of December 2017 to 31st of December 2018. Page 12. The losses on investments at revaluation to fair value at 31st of December 2017 were £1.3 million. At 31st of December 2018, the losses on re-evaluation to fair value are now £3.6 million. This is a tripling of the loss in 2017. Does the 2018 loss figure include the losses from 2017? How do the auditors of GMB account for the tripling of the loss in 2018? Is the tripling of the loss not connected to a policy of moving to more speculative and less secure investments and the policy to dispose of gilts, which are the most secure class of investment? Is everybody following? Let me deal with the investment questions first. As I reported to Congress last year, the Union has been looking for some time at changing our main portfolio from a direct holding of equity shares and government stocks into a multi-asset fund which reduces risk while delivering good, solid returns. The trustees acted on this in 2017 and began the transition by selling 50% of our shares at the end of that year and moving them into government stocks or gilts. We did it in two halves to protect the union's tax position. The second half was sold in mid-2018, and in November 2018, we invested in the Diversified Growth Fund shown in the accounts. As I say, this was done to protect members' funds from risk. At the end of March this year, the fund was invested 10% in government stocks, so we haven't dropped them from our portfolio. During the transition, we sold at a good point in the market, and our managers advised that the union was some £2 million better off by selling when we did. That's included in the realised gains on sale of assets on page 2, totalling £5.8 million over the 2 years. The second investment question goes on to ask about the loss on revaluation. To explain, accounting rules now mean we have to include our investments at their market value on December the 31st. This year, markets were very low at that point, so there was a loss in value. But we didn't crystallise the loss. There was no cash loss because we held on to the investments and the value was recovered when markets went back up earlier this year. The question also compares the value of investments in 2017 and 2018. One major change was that we took £2 million off the market fund to fund what we hope will be a very successful and brilliant new offices in Hainault in the London region. Congress's CEC is the custodian of our members' money, a job we and they take very seriously indeed. We took the steps we did to limit risk and further strengthen our union. That's the story of these accounts. To move on to Union Line, it's not true that we loaned our own legal firm, £5.4 million in 2018. We actually supplied cash loans of £766,000 in that year. The £5.4 million figure is the total capital provided by the union from the firm's foundation right up until the end of 2018. The interest rate is 6%. The amount charged in 2018 was £337,786.95, and the total interest accrued at the end of 2018 was £767,533.52. The union has invested heavily in this unique venture, a wholly owned union legal firm. It's already a fantastic asset owned for our members, and I'm pleased to say the firm returned a small profit in 2018, and the profit is set for very healthy growth this year and in future years. That concludes the questions, but I would recommend colleagues next year, if you can, please get along to the fringe meeting on accounts. It's a very open session. It's a roundtable event. It allows free discussion, and you can raise all the questions you have there. And in fact, a number of London Region delegates came along this year and were very helpful. Congress, I'm proud to present the accounts for the third year of my full period in office. And once again, the message is that we've achieved an operating surplus. Income was up. Membership showed another increase, a very positive performance compared with some of our sister unions. But as we've heard all week, from the quantity and quality of motions, special reports and policy documents, we're a very ambitious union. As I said yesterday, together we're creating a fighting, campaigning union that invests in our activists, that invests in our staff, and that tackles the challenges our members face in the ever-changing world of work. Uber, Asda, Glasgow, Sodexo, Hermes, Bidfood, Amazon, so many brilliant campaigns and so many more to come. But we're a business, colleagues. We must always ensure that we never spend more than we have received in income in any year. And setting our budgets each year is a very testing process indeed. Our 10 cost centres, that's the 9 regions and countries and national office, constantly examine every single area of expenditure. Our staffing numbers across the national union haven't changed for 15 years. We still employ just around 600 people at any one time. But there are obviously cost increases that change and are out of our control. Increase in postage, increase in rates and rents and utility bills. Then there's the significant investment that we need to make in our membership and IT system, as called for by an excellent motion earlier this week. Then investment in how we more effectively communicate, both internally and through the ever-growing media channels. And the campaigns we will run, the support we will give to you, our members, in the battles to come, and ensuring that we never starve them back to work. Sorry, they are never starved back to work. So our income needs to keep pace. We know all too well how difficult it is out there, and that every single penny of our members' earnings, they bloody well earn and they need. So the CEC never take the decision to recommend a contribution increase lightly. But we always do recall the years when we had a contribution freeze. What happened then was we started selling off the family silver just to make ends meet, and when we realised we had to put contributions up, we recommended a 25% increase. We can never go back to those days. So the CEC are saying and suggesting that there should be an increase of around the rate of inflation, which equates to 10 pence on grade 1 and 5 pence on grade 2 contributions. All other rates stay the same. We've also looked at improving the range of benefits, partly in response to proposals from branches. We're continuing with the gradual increase in funeral benefit as set out in the past, and we are removing some of the restrictions on cash benefits when a member has had a legal award and when they qualify for more than one cash benefit. We've also proposed extending reduced rates for maternity and parental leave. We also report some concerns about the rapid growth in free life membership since the initial charge was removed some years ago. The financial impact of that was relatively small, about £40,000 per year. But let me be clear, and I think this was probably the point that London Region wanted to raise. This is not an intention to reintroduce the charge for retired life members. What we are saying is that as a responsible trade union operating as a business, we should always keep in mind the impact that has on our membership and on our finances in future years. That's all we are saying. The payment to retired Boilermakers from the Members' Superannuation Fund has not increased for some years, and the CEC therefore recommends increasing it to the princely sum of 70 quid. So, colleagues, the GMB is in good order. The GMB's finances are in good order, but we need to keep it that way. We need to continue to grow. We need to continue to build. We need to continue to change. And to do that, we need to continue to have the funds and the finances. So please, I ask you to adopt the finance report. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Tim. I can now ask for a speaker from each region. If they wish to speak on it, they'd like to send their speakers down. Midlands and East Coast, have you got a speaker? Yes? If you could and come down to these seats on this side, because then you're directly opposite the... Whoever gets there first...
Ian Burkett, Midlands and East Coast Region, speaking in support of the finance report. President, Congress, we are proud to support this financial report because it's important, if this union is to grow, that the finances are stable. It is with thanks that we have maintained a stable position and have been living within our means. We acknowledge that although regrettable, our subs need to increase. To ignore this each year will only store up trouble in the future. It would be, so for that thing, we're quite happy with the report, but it would be a bit of a miss of me, of anyone who knows my regional president, a very proud Boilermaker. Not to mention the proposed increase to the Boilermaker pension, the first increase for 15 years. He says he now can afford another pint at the ice hockey. But, oh no, he can't, because he promised it to me if I mentioned it. We support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian.
Sue Walker, Yorkshire North Derbyshire Region, responding on the finance report. President, Congress, the UK economy has not since the Second World War faced a threat as great as the uncertainty caused by Brexit. The Tories are not interested in protecting the jobs and living standards of working people in this country. It is little wonder that people are casting around for a bit of comfort and security and joining a union. Congress, if trade union organised workers receive more pay than non-organised workers, there must be a reason for this. There is. All the hard work the union puts into campaigning for our members. But Congress, this does not come cheap. Our organisation needs these small contribution increases to continue to be at the cutting edge. Challenging and fighting employers determined to keep wages low and conditions poor. The GMB also offers members advice, legal support and representation if they are having a problem with their employer. It's value for money, a premium service that offers peace of mind and security. So what are the drawbacks? Well, obviously there's the cost of membership. Congress, we as a union do understand that in many areas wages are not rising and that prices, especially food, are. Congress, this support the GMB gives must be worth the extra 10 pence on grade 1 contributions. The GMB's legal campaign against Uber exposed the taxi giant for denying drivers the minimum wage and rest breaks. This was a massive victory but had to be paid for. The GMB has achieved great things. 0 hours contracts, low paid self-employment and agency work are making working lives a whole lot harder. Everyone deserves a decent job they could build a life on. But that's impossible if you don't know where your next shift or paycheck is coming from. For many, joining a union is less an opportunity to enjoy personal benefits than the chance to support the lobbying work that unions do for workers' rights in general. From protecting pensions to challenging low pay, all at a financial cost to the union. It's not like buying insurance, it's about taking part and getting involved. The increase in contribution will keep the GMB ahead of the game. At the end of the day, a union is only as strong as its membership. The more members we have, the stronger we become and the more protection we can offer. We need these increases to pay for future campaigns and future victories. And last but not least, to grow this great union. Yorkshire and North Derbyshire region support the finance report.
Thank you, Sue. Next speaker.
I might have to put both glasses on. Nigel Warren speaking in support of the financial proposals on behalf of the Wales and South West region. President, Congress. Every year at Congress we have to conduct a debate about the contribution increases, specify the state of the GMB financial generally. It's a tough but necessary decision that reconciles easily with the democracy of our internal decision-making processes. The financial stability that we have achieved as a union over many years since the dark days of the early part of this millennium is due to the adoption of the simple housekeeping principle of never spending more money than you get in. Our union has acted prudently in all areas of expenditure outlay, as must be the case given in the fact that a major part of our income derives from the members' contributions, but bluntly, it's the members' money. Our record in recent years as a strong campaigning trade union committed to improving the influence of our members at the workplace and enhancing the quality of their lives is second to none. However, to be able to provide the support cost money in the form of spending on salaries, administration, new technology, training, education, and of course, general benefits and services. Congress, we must have a sufficient treasury to continue to invest in this excellent, to deliver the clear, forward-thinking strategy for growth. These relevant, modest proposals for increase in our two core rates will enable us to secure funding streams necessary to shape our future rather than to shape it for us. For some time now, suggestions have been repeatedly made to restructure our contribution agreements, and it's only the last year at the very same venue the Congress decided to accept the report on the CEC commending the retention of the current system. It is a tried and tested one that has served us well for the good and bad times. It is fair and transparent and our membership increase bear out is cost competitive too. Let's never forget the growth the union does and the right thing is by its members, whereas the declining one lets them down. It is a virtuous circle, and an increase in membership secures us financially and permits the building of an influence and the power of a workplace beyond. With regard to the proposal to improve funeral benefit, remove restrictions on related claims, these are welcomed as they modernise the proposals put in place at difficult times for members and their families. In all honesty, the existing clawbacks do not reflect very well upon a reasonable and responsible trade union that puts its members at the very heart of everything it does. So this discontinuation is entirely appropriate. Congress, this is a balanced and responsible report that provides the basis of a future development on the great union, and my region commends it to you. Thank you.
Well done, Nigel. Thank you. Next speaker, Paul.
Paul Tony, speaking on behalf of the Southern Region on the financial report to Congress. Conference, GMB Southern Region fully support the financial report to this conference. To implement a membership rate similar to other unions will incur some costs and a review of benefits entitlement. As a union, we must invest in IT so that we can support our branches and members better, and this will require investment over the next few years to bring our union into the 21st century. While we know some members will be concerned about membership fees increasing, we must ensure that our union doesn't repeat past mistakes, and this requires repeat our past mistakes and fall into debt, as this will only create problems which could end our union. We also recognise some of our members may be reluctant about disclosing their pay details, etc. And we need to be careful around GDPR, etc., as any faults could lead us exposed to be taken to court. As a region, we've seen an increase of low-paid workers joining GMB to fight and protect their rights. We recognise that at this time of austerity, that money is tight. But we in the Southern Region see people joining the GMB in droves as they see an active trade union fighting for their workers' right, and they can see it as an investment to protect them. We understand that our retired members play a vital role in supporting our union. A few years ago, Congress agreed to scrap their fees, but as the number of retired members increases, we're asking for a bigger voice in our union. It's only right the CEC conducts a review and report back to the Congress with their findings, including finding out who are still members of our great union. CEC needs to find ways of carrying on building and strengthening our union, and Southern Region fully support the proposals that have been set out in this report by the CEC. We support.
Thank you, Paul. Next speaker.
I don't really need a fright this time, honestly. John Dolan, GMB Scotland, speaking in support of the financial report. GMB Scotland in particular are extremely grateful for the investment that the union has put in Scotland, building new offices, bringing the offices into the 21st century, better working environment for the people that work in the offices who do a very good job in Scotland, and they need applauded. Thank you, Janice, and your team. The investment that GMB have put into Scotland is not just in the offices. The support that they've given to the shipbuilding, which is particularly close to my heart, the support they gave the women in the Glasgow strike was tremendous, and that couldn't have happened without the support of National GMB. Excellent. And on that, one thing, thanks for the increase in the tenner. I'm a boiler maker. Be support.
Thank you, John. Next speaker.
President Congress Jan Smith, on behalf of London Region, speaking on the finance report. Congress, I can give you the good news first. We, within that report, have withdrawn 7 of our rule amendments. As the CEC turned them into CEC rule changes, you see in this report, namely CEC Rule Amendments 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and 14. So that is the good news, or part of. I can tell you we struggled with the contribution increases, but after much heated debate, we accepted the needs to increase and accepted the contribution increase. But I can tell you it was a hard struggle to get it through. Now the parts of the report that we're unhappy with, and Tim, you've already virtually mentioned it, and that is about our retired life membership, and on the proposal, or suggested proposal, looking at increasing and bringing it back to £40 life membership. I will remind you of the hard struggle in 2015, and there'll be a lot of you in this room who will remember our late Billy Hughes and the fight that he had and to get that rescinded. Billy, I know that you will be going, go on, pet, give it to him. Tell him you're not accepting it. You look after our retired members and you continue to do so. Also, they will say, there's a true saying, there's no smoke without fire. If it's a suggestion to be looked at, then why put it in there? There's got to be something hidden behind that motion, and nobody will convince me otherwise. If it is to save money, then I could provide the SMT and the CEC with many more areas to look at before introducing fees for our retired members. Congress, if I was working and I retired tomorrow, I would have given 56 years of my life to the GMB, which started off as the GMW. Am I not worth a free life membership? Plus, we've just heard that a lot of our retired members, and a lot of them are on benefits, will now have to start paying for their TV licenses. And what else is going to happen to them? Where's their money coming from to fund all this? Going on to paragraph 3, funeral benefit. You have heard our arguments in our speech on Rule Amendment 485. We welcome that funeral benefit has been increased, but I can tell you London Region's not happy with an increase of only £25 when past increases have gone up to 50. It's a complete insult to our life members. As to the rest of the report, I can tell you that we have voted on it in its entirety and then we will support it. But please, take in note, go back, look at the funeral benefit, look at the life membership, and take it all on, the points I've made on board. I move.
Thank you, Jan.
President, Congress. Tim Rath, first time delegate, first time speaker. Birmingham and West Midlands region speak in support of the finance report. We fully support the rise in both benefits and union contributions, which we believe will keep us able to fight on behalf of our members in strife. Birmingham and West Midlands region support.
Thank you, Tim.
President, Congress. Blue Goulding speaking on behalf of the North Western Irish region. It's a short statement, President. It's just to say that we do agree with the financial report.
That was short and sweet. Sorry. Any more speakers? No? In that case, we can now vote on the finance report. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. Right, because of that, I can now, if the finance report, because the finance report has been carried, rule amendments 484, 485, 487 stood in opposition to the finance report, so they've fallen. But I need to take a vote on rule amendment 468. London Region, do you agree to withdraw? Yeah, is that a yes? Oh, blimey. And because the finance report has been carried, motions 69 and 70 stood in opposition to the proposals, and they've also fallen. So I take a vote on motion 53. Scotland, do you agree to reference back?
Sorry, President. Kevin Flanagan, North Western Irish Region. Sorry, President. I'm unclear about that because I can't see how a motion that does not mandate a change in the subscription is actually going to fall on the back of the financial report. I find that most amazing because all this asks for is a report which are made clear in the statement. And therefore, I think it's incorrect to say it automatically falls. Thank you, President.
Okay, Kevin, thank you. I know you're testing me this afternoon, aren't you? Right. The motion called for a sliding scale contribution system to be investigated, motion 69, or introduced, motion 70. And the finance report states that in 2018, Congress accepted a finance report which included a report of the CEC's investigations into a wage-related contribution scale. The CEC's conclusions are reproduced here, and the CEC sees no reason for Congress to overturn its long-held policy against a wage-related scale, reaffirmed in 2018, page 1 of the finance report. Therefore, the officer's advice is that these motions fall if the finance report is carried. Ruled. So I was taking a vote on the motion 53. Scotland, you agreed to refer, didn't you? Yep. So all those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. Composite 2, London Region, do you agree to withdraw? Thank you. And motion 83, London, do you agree to refer? Thank you. I'll take a vote on that then. All those in favour of motion 83 with the reference back that London agreed, all those in favour please show. All those against, that's carried. I'm glad that one's finished. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I did have some notes about, just to let you know, could the people for Composite 3, 4 and motion 92 please come to the front? And while they're doing that, there's some announcements. A small black suitcase was left by the side door of the main hall. Please collect, if it's yours and you know it's yours, please collect from the Brighton Centre information desk as soon as possible. And the other note was the Retired Members Association raffle has been drawn and people can now go and collect their prizes at the stall. So we're on to section 5, union organisation and benefits. Can I have the mover of Composite 3, please? What?
David Leakes, Southern Region, moving Composite 3 on Union Line. President, colleagues, we think that putting the TU56 form back to the hand of the secretaries is a step forward. We believe that the branch secretary has a very important role in personal injury claims, where the branch secretary talks to the member to get the details of the claim. This allows us to identify if there is an organised opportunity to recruit and build the union in the workplace. It also allows us, the branch secretaries, to support the member with advice because some members do find it imitating just talking to solicitors. I move.
Do we have a seconder?
Vanessa Sibold from the London region, seconding Composite 3. President Congress, I'd like to start by thanking the people at Union Line for the very valuable work that they do, and add that having our own in-house legal service is a tremendous benefit of being a member of the GMB. We also welcome the changes in using branch secretaries more and involving the branches with accident claims form, which is a great move forward. I recently attended a presentation of Union Line and their plans in marketing and developing a new website. And that was really the main idea behind this motion, is that they just provide more guidance to members in the form of videos and in the form of information leaflets of how to use the service to the best advantage. A couple of the examples that came up is kind of when to involve workplace reps in those conversations that you have that involve employment disputes, and also if they need language services or help with translators, that there's more information provided about how to access those services. And I think that would make Union Line, sorry, just give me 2 seconds to find myself, basically would just make it an even better service than it is now and help members navigate it better. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I call a mover of Composite 4, please?
Danny Faith, London Region, moving Composite 4 on Union Line changes. President, Congress, if you Google GMB Union Line, the very first sentence on the homepage says, Union Line was established by the GMB and CWU unions to provide a broad range of legal services to their members. Our aim is to provide the first line of support to members for any legal advice need. Look at the rule book. Rule 26.2 in our rule book makes it absolutely clear the options available to members who seek legal assistance. They contact Union Line direct, their branch secretary or regional organiser. So if a member wishes to contact Union Line direct, then under rule, this is their absolute right to do so. As a region, we're aware that the link between our law firm, regions, offices and branches needs to be maintained. But there are examples of where this is falling down. Of all the region's employment cases that Union Line have assessed this year through member contact, only one has been taken up as a multi-claim. We think it's possible that for whatever reason, the advisor at Union Line's end may not be asking 2 or 3 simple questions to establish if there are more potential claimants we could help, and to then alert regions of the recruitment and organising possibilities. And if we apply this 2 or 3 simple question process to personal injury inquiries, then we can be generating more cases for the union to benefit from, while at the same time improving the service for our members. We feel that we are missing a trick here and this needs addressing, whether that be through the review process, as our motion states, or through good management, as outlined in the qualification. There's a reference in the CEC qualification to opportunities being missed with regards to recruitment, and whilst I know that our region has been sending out clear messages for the need for members to let us know about these, this should not negate Union Line from doing the very same thing. The position of our region is clear. We look forward to a review and we will embrace change where necessary. However, what we are not prepared to do is to stand by and watch as others, for whatever reason, attempt to change or even worse, turn off access to employment advice or any other legal service when that access is enshrined in the rules of our union. The message of this composite is clear. Union Line is our law firm, just as this is our Congress. While we understand the need for good and responsible management of Union Line, we will fight to ensure that it remains ours. I move.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
Chair, Congress, Gavin Downey, London Region, seconding Composite 4 on Union Line changes. As the opening line of the Composite says, Congress fully supports Union Line, our very own union-owned law firm. Being in such a position of our members having direct access is something other unions can only dream of. So let's quickly examine the alternative. To do so, we have to travel back to pre-May 2014. Who can remember helping members put together all their documents if they wanted a legal option? Who can remember sending off the file to the organiser who, in turn, would copy it and send it to the legal department at regional office? The regional legal officer then checks to see if the file is in order and the file has all the relevant paperwork, policies and procedures, and, if not, it goes back to the organiser. All the while, the limitation clock is ticking. Assuming the papers are found, the region then sends off the complete form to one of our solicitors' firms for a legal opinion. And let's keep our fingers crossed the file doesn't get lost in the post. Solicitors scrutinise the file and there's still a few important documents missing. The solicitor goes back to the region's legal officer, who contacts the organiser, who contacts the branch or shop steward, who contacts the member. All the time, the limitation clock is ticking. Aha! But we now have ACAS, early conciliation, to give us an extra month's extension, giving us 4 months in which to get a case lodged at tribunal. That may be the case, but it's not if the member comes to us when the initial 3 months is nearly up. Not so straightforward. And all the time, the limitation clock is ticking. And Congress, do we really want a whole load of Perry Masons or Rumpoles of the Bailey running around the regions, chasing up legal files, or do we want them out there organising? I suggest the clue is in the name, organiser. There are just a couple of reasons why we do not want to go back and why it is very important to continue to give our members full access to the service.
Finish up, please.
I second.
Thank you. Can I call motion 92, please? Thank you.
Greetings again, President, Chair, Congress, and our visitors. Victoria Ugueme, Southern Region, moving the motion, the Union Marketplace. This motion calls on the GMB and the wider union movement to develop a framework of companies that recognize and work diligently with the trade union. This would firstly be on a national basis and then develop to an international organization, which not only benefits members, but stand as an aspiration that services providers aim to achieve. It should also be possible to negotiate reduced rates or discounts for GMB members that access trusted providers for both services and consumables. Congress, please support this motion. I move. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder?
Good afternoon, President, Congress and visitors. I'm Marina Ahmed, seconding motion 92, first-time delegate, first-time speaker. This motion calls on Congress for a plan to be brought back to Congress next year. It's about using our power as a union to build on the good relations we have with providers. It's about ensuring our members have a list of providers that they can go to for the services and the products that they need, a list of providers who share our values, such as caring for the environment, fair trade, anti-slavery, animal welfare, and, of course, an ethical supply chain. This scheme also provides an incentive for other providers to aim for and to achieve those values, to get onto that list. It means that as our union core values are strengthened on the marketplace, we as members also gain important benefits. Congress, I second this motion.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
Chair, Congress, Warrington, Just Birmingham and West Midlands region, speaking in opposition to a very specific part of Composite 4, which states that our members have the absolute right to contact Union Line in the first instance if they want legal assistance from the union. Congress, when it comes to employment issues, this particular composite should not apply. We should not underestimate the very important and valuable job that we do as union reps. As union reps, we have intimate and direct knowledge of the issues that our members face in the workplace. In order to ensure that our members get the best representation and the quickest representation, it's important that we emphasize to our members that they should contact us, the union reps and the union office, so that we can make the direct contact with the employer and take the appropriate action, whether it's lodging a grievance or a dignity at work application or whatever. Otherwise, Congress, what's the point of us being union reps? We need to understand, when it comes to employment issues in the workplace, the limitation of lawyers, and do not forget the really valuable role that we perform as union reps.
London, you want your right of reply?
Look, I understand the sentiment, and there's absolutely nothing in this resolution that undermines the rep, seeks to undermine the rep, or prevents a member going through a rep, branch secretary or whatever, to contact Union Line. I've been a rep for this union for 30 years, and if I thought that it was going to do that, then I wouldn't have got up here and moved this resolution. However, this resolution isn't seeking to do that. All it's seeking to do is to, first of all, to point out that we do have rules in this union. They're quite explicit on this question, and we need to reaffirm them. If you want to change the way this operates, then put up a rule amendment. Everybody's got a right to do so. And in that way, you can change the rule in the way that you've described. Also, I think it's absolutely right that individual members do have the right to contact Union Line over employment law issues. So I understand the sentiment behind what's being said, but it misconstrues both the specifics of the resolution and also the intent of it. So I ask you to support Composite 4, please.
Thank you, colleague. I'm going to call on Anne Dean from GMB Scotland to respond on behalf of the CEC.
President Congress, Anne Dean speaking on behalf of the CEC on Composite 3, Composite 4 and Motion 92. On Composite 3 Union Line, which covers motions 84 and 85, the CEC is asking for this to be supported with a qualification. In order to ensure the success of Union Line and to ensure that our members use our excellent legal service, there needs to be a better engagement between lay reps and our members who have had accidents, so they are supported in what can be a difficult process. We want our members directed to our own firm, not a high street firm where their compensation may be reduced. The reintroduction of the TU56 form helps with this. It is essential that members are able to recognise the assistance that Union Line can give them to pursue their personal injury claim. Nothing should deter members accessing our firm. As part of the overhaul of the marketing strategy, it is intended that the new website will address how services are accessed by members, and Union Line is producing a range of leaflets aimed at employment-related subjects which can be produced in different languages as appropriate. The qualification is that any member making contact with Union Line who wishes a family member or friend to speak for them about their case can already request that, and communication will take place through the nominated person. Again, as was indicated at Congress last year, we do have employees at Union Line who have diverse languages. Turning to Composite 4, Union Line changes, which covers motions 86, 87 and 89, we are asking for this to be supported with a qualification. Union Line is a vital tool for members. However, we should not allow Union Line to dilute the link between our officers, branches, reps and members. Our industrial structures, organisation and the need for industrial first, legal second approach must be our priority. Union Line will continue to be a source of legal support for regional officers as regions determine how industrial campaigns may be supported by a legal action. Direct access on employment rights matters can result in industrial issues being missed and recruitment opportunities lost. While only a small percentage of members access Union Line in this way, the volumes of calls prevents the utilisation of the skills of the staff at Union Line to fully represent our members. As GMB's own law firm, we must always be mindful that it meets members' needs, but it is also a viable and manageable business, and on a day-to-day basis, that will be for the directors and senior management team to determine. Union Line services for members and their families are accessed directly. We need to make sure our members know Union Line exists to assist them when they have been injured. However, on employment issues, it is for regions, Union Line directors and the senior management team to determine how these are best handled. Finally, on motion 92, the Union Marketplace, we are asking for this motion to be referred. While the development of offers from approved suppliers is a key part of our retention strategy, to meet the demands of this motion, the CEC would need to consider how to set up such a broad marketplace, which would probably involve other unions. Therefore, Congress, please support Composites 3 and 4 with their qualifications and agree to refer motion 92 for the reasons I have explained. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Can I ask the speakers on the international motions please get ready? That's motions 425, 427, 428, 429 and 430. We'll now go to the votes. And on Composite 3, do you accept the qualifications, Southern and London? Thank you. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? Okay. Composite 4, London region, do you accept the qualification? Thank you. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried, thank you. On motion 92, Southern, do you agree reference back? Thank you. Right, we'll now move on to the international motions. And can I ask that the speakers in the harassment and abuse group of motions also get ready? That's motions 342, 344, 345, 346, 347 and 348. I now call motion 425. Sorry, delegates, I forgot one wee thing. All those in favour of reference back of motion 92, please show. Thank you. Any against?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sarah Allen, and I'm speaking on behalf of Wales and South West Region, moving motion number 425. Maduro should be deposed. Chair, Congress. There can be little dissent about the claim that the Maduro regime in Venezuela is corroded by corruption, division, and failure. 2 decades of economic mismanagement have impacted adversely upon the people of the country, arising out of 20 years of dictatorship, the last 6 of which have been presided over by Mr. Maduro. His legitimacy has been called into serious question, not only at home, but abroad too. Maduro, of course, was re-elected in 2018 amid allegations of rigging and fraud. Since taking power in 2013, he has undermined democracy and violated human rights in Venezuela and presided over a severe economic crisis. Scores of anti-government protesters have been killed in clashes with the security forces, and the setting up of a new assembly with the power to rewrite the constitution or even dissolve the opposition-led National Assembly was nothing more than a cynical attempt to strengthen his grip on power. By relying upon the statist economic policies started by Chavez, he has increased authoritarianism and totally mismanaged the economy. Venezuela has been condemned to ruin by insisting upon the application of misguided policies previously carried out by Chavez. In the years between Maduro first taking office and being re-elected earlier last year, violence and hunger have become embedded in the country. Inflation has multiplied and migration of people out of the country has skyrocketed. Venezuela was once Latin America's wealthiest nation, but no longer is that the case, with the next 6 years of his future term of office likely to worsen the situation. He has stifled dissent and sent out to silence any voice of opposition. Since 2014, many hundreds of cases of the mistreatments of opponents have been identified, including torture, with arrests being commonplace simply because of links to anti-government protests. Buying off the support of the powerful military has been achieved by giving leaders control of the food, oil and mining industries in an unashamed attempt to restrict opposition. And with allies such as Russia and China providing financial assistance, Maduro has maintained a semblance of the international support to prop up his policies, which have led to the collapse of the health system, hunger and a housing crisis. Life in Venezuela is fundamentally different to what it once was, and matters really are at breaking point. Congress, another 6 years of this tyrant and the country will be in a greater crisis than it is in now. The freedom of Venezuela can only be achieved by the deposition of Nicolas Maduro. Maduro out, democracy in. I move.
Seconder, please. Thank you.
Paul Farley, Wales and West Region. Second in motion, number 425, first time speaker. President, Congress. Venezuela is on its knees, beleaguered by economic distress, political discontent and oppression. As the mover has said, Nicolas Maduro has brutally and catastrophically ruled his country for the past 6 years by leading an inhumanitarian regime. Some people oppose external intervention on the basis that Venezuela holds elections, is socialist, and controls the largest oil reserves in the world. They perceive the prospect of American intervention as another attempt to relive its imperialistic past by trying to depose Maduro's government. But Congress, the appearance of democracy given, is nothing more than a sham. The socialist government has only stayed in power by means of repression, and it has no democratic legitimacy at all. A new and democratic form of government is desperately needed, and this corrupt dictatorship must be eliminated. Foreign meddling often makes situations worse, as shown by America's involvement in Iran and Iraq. Sometimes overthrowing one dictator leads only to an even worse one coming to power. But the specific circumstances of Venezuela makes intervention a realistic option for improving the lives of the Venezuelan people. Most Venezuelans clearly hold Maduro responsible for the great suffering that so many have experienced. The usual ways of getting rid of unacceptable leaders have not worked, including response to peaceful protests taking the form of police and soldiers using tear gas, water cannons and live ammunition. So elections haven't worked, protests haven't worked, and dialogue has failed. Sometimes tyrannical systems can only be ended by foreign intervention. And Congress, a better way to restore democracy would be via negotiated settlement to oust Maduro. But failing that, other alternatives should be actively considered. I second this motion.
Thank you. Do we move our motion 427?
Vice President Congress, Obi Amadi, first time moving a motion. Motion 427 on behalf of London Region. Solidarity with progressive forces in Brazil. The election of the far-right candidate Jair Bolsonaro in Brazil at the end of 2018 is extremely concerning for all. This friend of Donald Trump seeks to cause division and hatred in a country that had made enormous progress under the ex-President Lula and Dilma Rousseff. They supported the poorest in society, made major breakthroughs in social housing, welfare and education provisions, and were on the way to addressing the massive divides within Brazilian society, especially in regards to the indigenous populations. His policies are a threat to all the values that we in the trade union movement hold dear: equality, tolerance, democracy, solidarity, and the environment. His attacks on these values knows no limits, with threats to working class organisations, women, Brazil's black population, homeless people, LGBT people, and the indigenous people of the Amazon rainforest itself, the criminalisation of legitimate trade unions, political and protest activity. Bolsonaro has emboldened the far right and political violence has risen, including murders of political and environmental activists. His support of the former dictatorship and statements in support and in favour of torture and extrajudicial police killing, it's unacceptable and something which we should all join together in opposing. We are also deeply concerned for our comrade Lula. The hypocrisy and injustice that surrounds his incarceration is clear to all of us. Lula is a trade unionist from the Metal Worker Union. His progressive policies are to be admired and serve as an inspiration to all in the trade union movement. He's our brother, and we must fight for his immediate release. The extent to how the elite worked to prevent Lula from winning has just been revealed. Secret documents showing that Brazil's most powerful prosecutors, who have spent years insisting that they are apolitical, instead have plotted to prevent Lula's Workers' Party from winning the 2018 presidential election. They reveal serious wrongdoing, unethical behaviour and systematic deceit about which the public, both in Brazil and internationally, has the right to know. These materials also contain evidence that the prosecution had serious doubts about whether there was sufficient evidence to establish Lula's guilt. So, we strongly urge you to support this motion and the resolutions in it to defend democracy, human rights, social progress and the environment in Brazil, to free Lula and affiliate to the Brazil Solidarity Initiative. The elites in Brazil have shown that they will never give up their power, and we, as a movement, must continue to oppose their vile rhetoric and actions and give all our support and solidarity to the progressive forces still fighting for a better future for Brazil. Congress, I propose.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
Afternoon, Congress, President, Vice President. Fevzi Hussain, seconding motion 427 on behalf of the London region. Before I start, I'd just like to say, Forza Provo Brasileiro, power to the people of Brazil. Congress, the good people of Brazil are fearful and they have every right to be fearful. They need our help, and this motion is about getting a message of solidarity back to Brazil. As the moving speaker said, Jair Bolsonaro, a former military man who just 7 months ago
hardly any of us had heard of. But since the 1st of January this year, he has quickly achieved notoriety, even putting Donald Trump into the shade, and that takes some doing, Congress. There are a number of asks called for by this motion. Our union has always had a very proud reputation of having strong international policy, and we must now add Brazil to this long list of solidarity and campaigners. We demand that former President Lula is immediately released from prison. Bolsonaro is typical of a classic dictator. He has waited for the convergence of a number of different crises to hit Brazil, which has slashed the public's faith in democracy and the country's political class. Just like Donald Trump, Bolsonaro has incited hatred and discrimination against black people, indigenous communities, women and gay people. There is no doubt that Bolsonaro is a pivotal part of the axis of evil sweeping the globe, the far-right evil. In the Brazilian Congress, he once told a female representative that he would not rape her because she was too ugly. Conference, this motion speaks for itself. Get behind it, get behind the people of Brazil, and unanimously carry this motion. I second.
Could the mover of motion 428, please?
President Congress, Jashuklal Darsi, into bracket JD, London region, moving 4 to 8, Bharat Bandh means national shutdown. Back in January, when we put this motion in, our Indian trade union brother and sister were in the stage of holding one of the largest 2-day strike in Indian history. 150 million workers from across all sectors joined together, demanding that the then government stop all pro-corporate anti-workers amendment to labor law, stop the privatization of the transport sector, abolish contract system and implement a national common minimum wages, amongst other demands. What has happened since is that there has been a general election. In fact, the world's largest and the longest, which started in April and ended in May. The 5-week general election where 900 million voters cast their votes was won by the same party, BJP. This is not great news for Indian trade union movement, who will continue to put their 12-point charter to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his government. When he won the election, Modi made assurance that his Modi II government will rethink wealth redistribution for the poor and wealth creation for those who want to end poverty. We are hoping that we will reach out to trade union and look at the much needed labor reformer, but Indian labor law are extremely complex for example on minimum wage. There are over 400 different types of scheduled employment types that have created more than 1,200 minimum wages. This law belongs to the colonial period, not for a 21st century Indian. Our motion called for GMB to stand as solidarity with our international trade unions and ensure a fair deal for all workers around the world. As the third largest UK union, we can use our influence to stand up for workers who are being oppressed. We can work with our international link and ask our government to commit to decent work and fair international rules for all workers and support the International Labour Organization to enforce them. Our branch will be sending message of support. Please vote for this motion and show GMB national support. I move. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a seconder. Can the mover of motion 429, please?
President Congress, Warsaw Unakat, London region, first time delegate. Moving motion 429. Congress, December 2019 will mark the 35th anniversary of the Bhopal disaster, where an accident at the Union Carbide pesticide plant in Bhopal. India released at least 30 tons of highly toxic gas into the air. More than 6 lakh people were exposed to the deadly gas cloud. Victim eyes and throat were burned, and to this day, more than 8,000 die, half at the time and half since. Toxic material remain in the ground, and even now, 35 years later, many of these who were exposed to the gas have given birth to physically and mentally disabled children. Thousands of tons of hazard waste remain buried underground, and the government has conceded that the area is contaminated. For decades, survivors have been fighting to have the site cleaned up, but they say the efforts were slow when Michigan-based Dow Chemical took over Union Carbide in 2001. As your motion says, no one has been held to account, and the site is still toxic with contaminant to the local water supply, as it has never been cleaned up. Congress, no organization should be putting the health and safety of its workplace or the wider community at the risk and impacting many families. Our motion asks for affiliation to the Trade Union Friends of Bhopal, which we understand has to go through the CEC Finance and General Purpose Committee, but be assured that we will be sending a message of support and solidarity and perhaps funding to the Trade Union Friend of Bhopal, which is an offshoot of the UK Hazard Campaign. This organization is made up of community activists carrying over research into environmental disaster, and Bhopal is one where we should not stop campaigning on please support our motion to get environmental justice for this victim in line with the principle behind the corporate manslaughter act, the corporate negation. I move, I second and thanks once again the London region and my Wembley branch. They encourage me lots of things, and they give me the gold opportunity for this 2019 Congress. Thank you, London region. I love you.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Now call motion 430.
Chair, Congress, Township China, London Region, moving motion 430, Jallianwala Bagh Massacre, Amritsar. Congress, I can see you all sitting here, listening intently, maybe writing, doodling, sharing sweets, all here as a collective, relaxed and safe. Imagine suddenly all the exits around you are then barricaded by soldiers armed with rifles. Before you have time for your survival instincts of fright, freeze, flop or flight kick in, there is indiscriminate firing until all the ammunition used has been exhausted. You are one of the few that are survivors. What do you do? What do you think? This is what happened on the 13th of April, 1919, 100 years ago this year. General Dyer of the British Army in India ordered the firing of rifles onto a peaceful crowd of people, the youngest recorded as 7 months old, of all faiths, of no faiths, innocent, unarmed people. Many jumped into a well to escape to find that the well led to their deaths as it was too deep. 120 bodies being recovered. Whilst Dyer got accolades when he returned to England, the innocent, unarmed people mourned their death. There has never been an acknowledgement or an apology over this massacre. Bhagat Singh travelled from India to England to avenge the murders of the over 1,000 innocent people. Bhagat Singh himself placed the noose around his own neck when he was hanged at the Tower of London for shooting Dyer. A week ago, I visited Jallianwala Bagh in Amritsar to pay my respect. And someone said, their blood stains still scream, their helplessness still haunt, their sacrifice still honoured. Please, Congress, support this motion.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder?
President, Congress, Fevzi Hussain, London Region, second 430 on the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. I think Taranjit's made all the arguments really why we need to unanimously carry this motion. The bottom line is when Michael O'Dyer gave the order to open indiscriminate shooting on the innocent civilians, the only reason there was only 1,000 people, I say only, was because, as she said, they ran out of ammunition. It was 10 minutes solid of firing on this group of civilians. Over 1,000 men, women and children were murdered and over 1,000 were injured. I'd like to pay tribute to the Centenary Committee that has been set up on the 100th anniversary of this massacre. It's absolutely essential that this stain on the British Empire is remembered accordingly, that we raise awareness of it, that we go into the schools and teach children about the history of the British Empire, not just those rosy bits of history, but the reality of the British Empire in terms of the Amritsar massacre. And essentially, one of the other key points, as Taranjit said, is for this British government to issue an apology for the murderous acts of 100 years ago. I second.
Thank you. Is there anyone want to speak in opposition? You and then yourself.
Warren Smith, Yorkshire and North Derbyshire region, opposing motion 425. What this motion is asking for is regime change, American-backed regime change in Venezuela. We have seen the effects of American-backed regime change in Iraq, in Libya, and how has that gone? How has that turned out? We've got one fascist already in South America, in Brazil. the excellent motion on 427. We heard about the effects that Bolsonaro in Brazil, the effect that he's having on his people, the way he's treating the trade unionists. We're putting them in danger if we back this in this country, in Venezuela. We cannot have a stooge government in Venezuela backed by Trump. It will only lead to disaster. Defend Venezuela, defend the Bolivarian revolution. Thank you.
Thank you, colleague.
President, excuse me, President Congress, Dave Levy, London Central General from London Region, again opposing motion 425. Maduro must be deposed. The situation in Venezuela is really quite complex, and we, as a union, we as a Congress, deserve better than this motion. We've had debates before over the years and have a great portfolio of policy governing our solidarity with the people of Venezuela and Latin America. The political and humanitarian crisis in Venezuela is driven by illegal US sanctions. The civil liberties crimes of the Maduro administration are all their own. But the one crime we cannot accuse Venezuela of is rigging their elections. They had foreign observers. Those foreign observers declared the elections to be free and fair, and the IT systems they use are amongst the world's best, including voter receipts and control audits. When writing this speech, I stated that I wrote that this motion could be interpreted as supporting outside military intervention and has almost certainly been designed to express such a view. I think I was right. Because I cannot believe that there are still people that believe the doctrine of liberal interventionism is something to be pursued. You'd have thought we'd have learned from Iraq and Syria. GMB's current policy is to act in solidarity with the people of Venezuela. And certainly today that means to defend their right of self-determination. If Maduro is to go, it can only be by the actions of the Venezuelan people. We have previously agreed to work through the Venezuelan Information Centre and the Venezuelan Solidarity Campaign. Another issue is that I thought the way it would work was the CEC was bound by Congress policy, so I'm deeply disappointed that they plan to ask for the motion to be referred and not withdrawn. It's clearly in contradiction to the policies that we have. Our solidarity must be with the people of Venezuela. Regime change is illegal and wrong. Aggressive war is illegal and wrong. This motion does not deserve our support in any way. Please oppose.
Thank you. Now, apologies in advance in case I get mispronunciation. I'm going to call on Shailesh Gaglani from London Region to speak on behalf of the CEC.
President Congress. Shailesh.
Sorry, apologies. Right a reply. Does the region want to? Wales want to? No.
President Congress. Shailesh Gaglani speaking on behalf of the CEC in response to motions 425, 427, 429 and 430. On motion 425, Maduro must be deposed. The CEC is asking that this motion be referred so that the situation in Venezuela can be reviewed more closely to ensure our union's response calls for action that supports the interests of the Venezuelan people, as defined by our existing policy. GMB's policy on Venezuela commits the Union to standing in solidarity with the Venezuelan people and their social achievements, supporting their freedom to determine their own political future free from outside intervention. The crisis in Venezuela is both severe and also complex in its nature.
We have concern that intervention from outside of Venezuela have escalated the political and economic crisis into humanitarian one. Congress, we know this approach has a long and bloody history in Latin America. It is with these circumstances in mind that the CEC believes to call for the forceful removal of President Maduro would not be meaningful and constructive. Not meaningful and constructive approach to this crisis, and would instead put our union in the same camp of those who do not want to foster a peaceful solution to the crisis and do not have the interests of the Venezuelan people at heart. Turning to motion 427, solidarity with progressive forces in Brazil. The CEC is also asking for this motion to be referred. As the motion asks for a GMB to affiliate to a particular solidarity organization, namely the Brazil Solidarity Initiative. We would recommend that this motion is referred to the CEC Finance and General Purpose Committee to consider this as with all affiliation to external organization. On motion 429, remembering the Bhopal disaster, the CEC asking for this motion to be referred. GMB absolutely supports the sentiment of this motion, which seeks justice for all those affected by what is considered to be the world's worst industrial disaster. However, any affiliation to Trade Union Friends of Bhopal would have to be considered by the CEC Finance and General Purpose Committee. Finally, on motion 430, Jallianwala Bagh Massacre, Amritsar, the CEC is asking that this motion be supported with qualification. The qualification is that GMB cannot commit to signing any forthcoming petition demanding the same, without first seeing the text of the petition, as it may also make other demands that the Union cannot support. Therefore, Congress, the CEC asking that motions 425, 427, 429 are referred, and motion 430 is supported with qualification. Thank you.
Thank you. And motion 425, Wales and South West Region, do you accept the reference back? Okay, all those in favour, please show. Anyone against? Again. Oh, I've already asked. It's reference is carried. Account as well. All those in favour of reference back of motion 425, the region have agreed it. All those in favour, please show. It's carried easily. All those against? It's well carried, sorry. On motion 427 from London region, do you accept reference back? Now, all those in favour of reference back, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. Motion 428, which the CEC are supporting, all those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. Motion 429, London region, do you accept reference back? Thank you. All those in favour of reference back? Anyone against? That's carried. Motion 430, London region, do you accept qualification? Thank you. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Congress. We'll now debate motions on harassment and abuse, but can I ask the speakers on the social policy transport also got ready? Those are motions 405, 406, 411, 412 and Composite 19. Thank you. Call motion 342.
Vice President Congress, John Pitchford, North Western Irish Region, moving motion 342, social media and harassment. First time speaker. When we think about campaigning on health and safety, we generally think about the physical impact and risk of chemicals, equipment and day-to-day tasks. But the world we live in has changed dramatically over the last few decades. In 1974, when the Health and Safety Act came to being, the internet as we know it and 24-hour social media in the form of Love Island, Our Celebrity, etc., was only a concept in Orwell's book in 1984, with Big Brother watching over everyone. The rise of online networking and the use of social media on mobile phones and tablets has seen the growth in a new type of bullying and harassment, cyberbullying. This is any form of bullying, harassment or victimisation online. It can spill from on-screen to off-screen very easily and affect the lives of employees across the world, both in work and out of work, stemming from unsubstantiated allegations about individuals in public life. Well, they take a bung or, they're corrupt. Up to and including employees actually being videoed and photographed while going about their daily tasks. These can include frontline workers emptying bins, care workers taking a much needed rest because they want to break and they don't want to go to the base to have the break. These videos are then being posted to social media, and in some cases, even naming individuals, which impacts on their lives away from work, leading to an additional stress and negative impact on individuals' mental health. This has the potential to cost employers lost of productivity and also increased absence. Yes, you can turn your phone and tablet off. When you turn it back on, hey presto, it's still there. This motion calls for a campaign to support GMB members to be confident to challenge this by raising with their employers and logging these incidents. Many employers have social media policies, but they refer to the actions of employees, not the general public. This is achievable. Campaigning by GMB reps in Bolton led to the changes to health and safety policy within the local authority. Incidents of harassment via social media are encouraged to be reported and are logged on an amended incident accident form and are discussed within the Health and Safety Committee meetings, and managers are now made aware and able to provide as much needed support. We are only too aware of the damaging effects of bullying and harassment, and sadly, this does not end in the workplace. I would like to take this opportunity to bring to your attention and remind everyone in this hall the Ban the Sun policy, which my region, North Western Irish, brought to the 2017 Congress. Racism has no place in the GMB. Bullying has no place in the GMB. Harassment has no place in the GMB. Best of all, the scum has no place in the GMB. Please display these in your workplaces and let's get the message out. Congress, I move.
Thank you, John. Seconder?
President Congress, Lynette McGaffin, North Western Irish Region, seconding motion 342, first Sam Speaker. As we have just heard, social media has a very nasty and dangerous side. It isn't all puppies and raising money for charity. I'd like to focus for a moment on the impact between bullying on social media and poor mental health. Sadly, we do live in a 24-hour social media society with Facebook and Twitter and many people use it to keep in touch with friends and family. But when bullying becomes keyboard warriors, this can impact greatly on a person's mental health. We all know that poor mental health is an increasing issue within the workplace, and this, along with stress from incidents of harassment on social media, can greatly impact on one's well-being. Social media is difficult to control and can be fast-moving, but by calling on employees to support and log these incidents, our members should feel more supported. I second.
Well done, Lynette. Motion 344.
President, Congress, Rachel Hookway, London Region, moving motion 344 on sexual harassment by a third party. Third-party harassment covers a number of negative behaviours towards an individual from a third party. A third party is someone who a worker interacts with as part of their job but is not employed by the same employer. Harassment covers several behaviours ranging from verbal abuse to physical violence. Any worker who interacts with the public as part of their job are far more likely to experience abuse and harassment from the public than those who do not. However, any worker can be subject to third-party harassment, and I'm sure this is something we all agree no one should have to experience. The TUC carried out a survey of over 4,000 workers, and of those, nearly 2/3 had experienced verbal abuse from a third party, and nearly half had experienced sexual harassment or physical violence from a third party. The impacts of any kind of third-party harassment, abuse or bullying in the workplace can be severe. It can lead to stress and both physical and mental ill health. The same research carried out by the TUC found that less than half of the workers that were polled who had experienced third-party abuse and harassment reported the most recent incidents to their employer, didn't report it to their employer. It also found that respondents spoke of supervisors and managers who dismissed the abuse and harassment, reduced it or even laughed it off. Many respondents reported one or more of the perpetrators to the employer on multiple occasions, but no action was taken against them. Respondents reported feeling it was easier to deal with or decide not to deal with the abuse and the harassment with themselves rather than expecting their employer to resolve it. It is clear from this survey that in many cases the lack of change as a result of reporting an incident to the employer in the past has led to some workers stopping reporting incidences altogether. An employer has to act to protect a member of staff who is being abused or harassed by a third party the same way as if they were being harassed by a colleague. However, some employers don't understand what their duties are and use the confusion as an excuse to do nothing. Other employers do know what their duties are and still do nothing. These findings are unacceptable. Our workers should not be subject to harassment in any form and should be able to look to their employer for support. Let's ensure our reps are able to support our members well and make our workplaces know that this behaviour will not and cannot be tolerated. Please support this motion.
Thank you, Rachel. Seconder.
President, Congress, Brighton Shaw, London Region, seconding motion 344. TUC research has shown that public-facing sectors see higher reports of sexual harassment by a third party. Areas we in GMB have large numbers of members: retail, hotel industry, remember that tonight, and the health service. But let's not forget the increase in cyberbullying and harassment as well. Let's develop training for reps along with model policies to negotiate with employers. We also need to put pressure back onto the government to reinstate Section 40 of the Equality Act 2010, so we do not need to rely on common law for protection but equality law. I suspect, however, that we'll have to wait for a Labour government looking at this lot, but on that basis, I second. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Mover of motion 345.
President, Congress, Steve Oakes, motion 345, male domestic abuse. There are 1.9 million abuse cases in the UK every year, and each and one of those should be condemned. Of those 1.9 million, it is estimated that 700,000 victims are men. Unfortunately, those figures can't be clarified because male victims are 3 times more likely to keep their abuse silent and secret. And I think I've probably discussed why in my last motion. So the real problem here is at the moment there are 78 places for refuge places for men in the entire country. And of those 78 places, only 20 are for men only. Basically, I think that speaks for itself, and I don't need to go into much detail about that. 700,000, 78 places. Congress, this motion asks that the GMB campaigns for greater understanding of male domestic abuse, education for members, to encourage men to report incidents in the first place, greater support for victims, and better provision for survivors. Congress, I move.
Well done, Steve. Thank you. Seconder.
President, Congress, I'm seconding motion 345, male domestic abuse, and calling on Congress to address the issue. Whilst domestic abuse against women is rightly well recognised, men also face domestic abuse, and yet the issue is much less visible. Male victims of domestic abuse, their perpetrators, and wider society often may struggle to identify and name the issue because of social views that men don't share their sadness or pain, but violence. Emotional, mental, physical manipulation is abuse, regardless of the gender of the victim or perpetrator. Support and resources for male victims of domestic abuse are virtually non-existent, and those that are in place are not widely known or always accessible. I urge Congress and GMB to acknowledge and support males who face domestic abuse, and I call upon Congress to recognise that in order to address this issue, education, communication, and above all dialogue are our key tools, working in partnership with those who may be the first point of contact, who are police, social workers, GPs, and other health workers, is vital. We see this as only the first step towards raising the profile of an area of serious concern, and we call on Congress to commit to developing a further continuing education and training strategy and to provide us with the details on the progress of the framework of this at the next Congress. Congress, I move.
Thank you, David. Well done. Mover of motion 346.
President, Congress, Wendy Burlinson, Northern Region, first-time delegate, first-time speaker. Moving motion 346, domestic violence. Congress, there has been a great deal discussed regarding domestic abuse in recent years. It has become an easier subject to talk about, which was previously taboo in many workplaces and communities. Abuse in a domestic setting affects individuals and families alike, and the consequences can last for many years. Congress, the work the GMB has undertaken in workplaces is groundbreaking. When we ask for employers to show good practice and sign up to our charter on working to stop domestic abuse, we were not asking the earth. It is essential that employees help and support workers experiencing domestic abuse. It is essential that such workers are then supported with access to information and services. And it is essential that employers train their staff to both sensitively and confidently support their staff. Congress, we know we need to encourage more employers to sign up to our charter. Tackling domestic abuse and helping people in the workplace is part of the process of dealing with this in a number of ways. And from an employer's point of view, a worker that is helped will feel value, give more back, and they will be given hope. We recognise the work that is being done to address this through GMB Labour MPs in Parliament, and we would like a petition to be established, and we would like to campaign and collect information so we can build support for our campaign and our charter. If we can obtain a debate in Parliament and get some action from it, our members will see GMB leading the way on this important area of social policy. I move.
Well done, well done, Wendy. It's not easy waiting for so long to make your first speech. Well done. Is there a seconder? Are you formally? Thank you, Northern. Mover of motion 347.
Mick Widdowson, Midland East Coast Region, moving motion 347, keeping us safe on the rail network. President, Congress, British Transport Police recorded over 61,000 crimes in the year 2017 to 18, up from 52,000 during the previous 12 months, amounting to a 17% increase in crime. Violent crime accounted for nearly 1 in 5 crimes during this period. Offences involving knives or other weapons went up 46% to 206, while robbery jumped by 53% to over 500 cases. Sexual offences increased by 16% to over 2,400, and it is believed that many more crimes of this type often go unreported. After years of decreasing crime on our railways, is it a coincidence that at the same time as removing guards and staff from the railways, we see these increases? I think not. Station staff and guards are vital parts of the rail network, both as a deterrent to offenders and a reassuring sight to lone and vulnerable passengers. By removing the guards and staff or downgrading their role, we lose a well-trained point of contact with passengers, one that is able to keep us all safe. Again, our safety is at risk from cost-cutting by privatised rail companies in the name of profit. As a rail worker myself and a public transport worker for 30 years, I see the value to passengers of a member of staff easily accessible to assist them and keep people safe. The driver cannot do this. I have been that worker. I've seen the relief on the members of the public who need help or reassurance. Don't forget, these crimes could happen to any one of us, our friends or our family. This motion calls upon Labour MPs to highlight these issues and campaign for the reinstatement of the guards by using all means available to them. Reinstate the guards, nationalise the railways. President, I move.
Thank you, Nick. Seconder.
Ian Burkett, Midland and East Coast Region, second in motion 347, safe on the rail network. There has been an alarming rise in attacks and sexual offences on our rail network. The rail operators are only concerned about the bottom line and how much profits they can make. The role of the train guards is to supervise the interface between the train and the platform, the riskiest part of the journey. The volume of traffic on the network has increased tremendously, so risks are heightened. But guards do so much more. They give comfort to people travelling alone. They are another person on the train if anything happens to the driver. They can provide first aid in any incident if required. And with these skills, the role should be maintained. I ask you to support this motion.
Thank you, Ian. Mover of motion 348.
Good afternoon. Paul Kenny, Midlands and East Coast Region. Moving motion campaigning for local government employers to be prosecuted when people are coming under threat from their daily duties. President, Congress, I think this is a really important issue. I've been working in local government for well over 40 years now, and Over the last 5 years, with all these Tory cuts, I've never seen staff being so vulnerably attacked. And I say attacked. When you look at the Health and Safety Executive Report of this year, or the last 12 months, where you see 370,000 people who are under attack, you know, because of being at work, you then ask yourself, when we then have a Prime Minister who's overseen these vicious attacks on local government spending, who then uses terminology like, I'm a member of the last nasty party, you then wonder why society is kind of having real problems. You then have to look at what's happened over the last 12 months with the Brexit scenario to realise that in local governments that we're being forced to take an unnecessary burden. And all what I would say on today's motion is that we need to make sure that we do the right thing. Thousands of our members are being under attack. I've already been talking to some key people within the country. I've spoke to Andrew Gwynn, who's the Labour Party Shadow Minister, Secretary of State, Nick Forbes, who's the leader of Newcastle and also the leader at the LGA, and Councillor Tom Beattie, who's also the leader of Corby and also the chair of East Midlands Employers Association, who support us on this. So all what I would be urging to the executive, just let's make sure that we do a robust campaign. If you've never been attacked, it's an awful thing to happen. It's happened to me twice, and I spent days and months overcoming those fears of banging on a door again, and it's not a fear that I want anybody to suffer with again. Please support the motion.
Thank you, Paul. Seconder.
President, Congress. Claire Pavitt, Midlands and East Coast Region, first-time delegate, first-time speaker. Thank you. And I've taken Danny's advice and put my reading glasses on. Seconding motion 348. Last year, there were 694,000 incidents of violence at work, 91% of which were committed by people outside the workplace. What is going on in our society for people to be driven to and think that it's acceptable to attack and abuse others for simply doing their job? As a trade unionist, my default position is always corrective behaviour, not punitive action. However, I know from working in local government that there is a growing number of people who are filled with anger, frustration, desperation, which has been created by the government's austerity and ignorance of real life. At the same time, there is a worrying normalisation of abusive, hateful, violent behaviour created by the far right. Combined, we have the perfect storm corrective behaviour alone cannot control. It has to be nipped in the bud, and we are the driving force to do that. It seems to me a perverse irony that those who spend their lives in public service, watching the backs of their communities, should be the ones receiving the backlash. So Congress, who watches their backs? This government? I suggest not. I ask you to wholeheartedly support this motion and send a strong message. The GMB have their backs.
Well done, Claire. Perfect timing. Does anybody wish to speak in opposition to these motions? No? Then can I ask Cathy Abubakar of Southern Region to respond for the CEC?
President, Congress, Cathy Abubakar speaking on behalf of the CEC. The CEC are supporting motions 342, 344, 346 and 348 with qualifications. On motion 342, while the CEC supports the principle of the motion, the qualification is that reps can log incidents like accidents to use as part of their bargain and workplace level negotiations without the need for a campaign already. On motion 344, the qualification is that training modules would be a matter for regions to manage and deliver, and the provision of online tutorials would be a matter for them to agree. The CEC welcomed the recognition of the work being done to address domestic abuse by GMB in motion 346. The qualification is that signposting supporters to government petitions means that we never get to find out who the individuals are who to support us. We would rather collect that information as a union to build support for the GMB. A number of GMB MPs launched the Domestic Abuse Charter in the House of Commons, and the political team will seek to secure a debate on this issue through other channels. On motion 348, the qualification is that employers can pursue private prosecutions on occasions when the police or the CPS decline to proceed to prosecution. In the first instance, though, it should be that the police who seek to prosecute, not the employer. Therefore, Congress, the CEC is asking for motions 342, 344 and 346 and 348 to be supported with the qualifications I've laid out. Thank you.
Thank you, Cathy. On motion 342, the North Western Irish region, do you accept the qualification? Yes, thank you. Put that to the vote. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. On motion 344, London region, do you accept the qualification? Thank you. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. On motion 345, which the CRC is supporting, all those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. On motion 346, Northern region, do you accept the qualification? Thank you. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. On motion 347, the CEC are supporting. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. On motion 348, Midland and East Coast region, do you accept the qualification? Thank you. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. Thank you, Congress. We will now debate motions on transport, but can I ask speakers on industrial and economic policy to get ready and to come to the front? That is motions 201, 203, 206 and 207. Is there a mover for motion 405, please?
President, Congress, comrades, Gordon Cullum, London region, moving motion 405 on Britain's failing railways. The current provision for railways across Britain is a shambles. Every sensible person in the country knows renationalisation is the only solution, but meanwhile, fare increases should be calculated by the CPI instead of the higher retail price index. In addition, the private companies who waste public money on share dividends and wages to the likes of Richard Branson, whilst providing a terrible service and cutting health and safety, including attempting to take the guards off the train, these lot should see fare deductions for late and cancelled trains rather than hiking up obscene prices every year. Let's work with our brothers and sisters in the railway unions to pressure fat cat bosses to give workers and travellers a fair deal. I move.
Thanks, Gordon. Seconder.
Madam President, Congress, comrades. My name is Tony Cole from the London region, and I'm seconding motion 405 on Britain's failing railways. First time delegate, second time speaker. Our union has the absolute right policy on the railways, and like the water industry I work in, the GMB's policy is to renationalise them both. And by putting the railways back into public hands, we not only get good value for money and reasonable ticket prices, it will achieve proper workers' rights and pay. We don't let the supposed free market dictate how our infrastructure is run and how it's controlled. Meanwhile, with every drop in performance by the privatised railways, an equal drop in ticket prices should follow. I second.
Thank you, Tony. Well done. Mover on motion 406.
President, Congress, Frank Osei, London Region, moving motion 406. HS2 inner city schools losing out financially due to the mass exodus of families to outer city regions. Congress, high-speed rail and government officials did not take into account the impact on funding in educational establishments as the funding formula is related to the number of pupils in classrooms. Unfortunately, the demolition of local authority housing estates, together with the mass exodus of whole communities, means that some classrooms are becoming empty. This exodus has a knock-on effect on school budgets throughout each local authority as a result of HS2 coming through their neighbourhoods. For example, the London Borough of Camden has been dramatically affected with schools at crisis levels due to a lack of pupils. In turn, this also has a negative impact on staffing levels, threatening the very survival of schools in Camden. Recruitment and retention rates have been severely impacted within Camden, prompting the action of support staff who are there to help the most vulnerable of children. Within the past year alone, there have been 78 redundancies in Camden to cover the shortfall in pupils. Other boroughs would also be going through restructuring and redundancies because of budget restraints. Without enough financial support from the government, schools are on the brink of closure as they continue to struggle with the effects created by HS2. The government insists that it is pumping more money into schools, but just take a look at the London Borough of Camden. A joint letter from 40 head teachers in Camden said, "Many of us have had to stop recruiting new staff, and in some cases, schools have had to make members of staff redundant simply to balance the budgets, stretching the existing members of staff to their limits." The letter called on the government to make an immediate investment in our children's education. A Department of Education spokesperson said, "This year, under the national funding formula, schools in Camden will attract 6,251 per pupil on average, which is well above the national average of 4,689. Unfortunately, this does not address the issue created by HS2, which has caused a reduction of children living in and attending the schools within Camden, as well as the other boroughs affected by HS2. Therefore, schools will close. After the completion of HS2, Camden's gentrification rebuild will require schools of local authority and not supplementary private sector schools created by the closure of local authority schools because of a lack of public funding. The government should financially support local authorities in order to ebb the financial burden bestowed upon education establishments in the line of fire by HS2. Congress, please support this motion.
Well done, Frank. Seconder.
I'd just quickly like to say thank you to everyone in the London region for supporting me last year during my difficulties at work. And a special thank you to Branch Secretary Dennis McNulty for encouraging me to be a first-time delegate.
Okay, well said.
President, Congress, Stella Ikanik, London Region, first-time delegate, third-time speaker. Seconding motion 406. Congress, the government insists that it's pumping more money into schools, but the Institute for Fiscal Studies said last year that between 2009 to 2010 and 2017 to 2018, school spending per pupil in England fell by about 8%. Many schools have had to make redundancies, and most have been unable to replace staff who leave. This has meant that the workload for staff remaining is also at an all-time high. And some schools will struggle to even pay staff the below influential pay increases. Congress, unfilled places is the official reason for the planned closure of St. Aloysius Primary School in Camden, due to be officially announced next month. Why, you may ask? Well, it's no coincidence that there are no families living in the area due to the demolition and mass exodus of whole communities decamped in the wake of HS2. Then there is the redevelopment of the once local community areas due to HS2. The regeneration program is now affordable housing and not that of local authority. Congress, this has encouraged private sector education taking up the opportunity due to the closure of local authority schools that were once vibrant within these areas. Congress, I second this motion. Please support. Thank you very much.
Well done, Stella. Thank you. Mover of Composite 19.
President, Congress, Stephen Jones, London Region, moving Composite 19, comprising motions 408, 49 and 410 on Transport for London. Congress, when Mayor Sadiq Khan was elected in 2016, he made promises to London, and he promised that there would be an all-inclusive city with a transport system to match, a public transport system to match. We would ask, where is this public all-inclusive transport system? Because it certainly isn't all-inclusive, not by a long stretch. It is not inclusive at all. Frustratingly, we are still waiting to see where this is going, because it hasn't happened yet. There are lots of problems for people with disabilities, and some of them are involving wide gaps between platforms and trains, lighting and colouring, coordinating stations, making stations fit for purpose that are disabling for those passengers with visual impairments as well. There are narrow doorways and stairs, a lack of clear and sustainable audible and visual signals on buses, where buses have the signals that tell you where you're going. They're in the wrong places, buttons are in the wrong places, and most shockingly of all, ignorance and prejudice that results in exclusion and towards the disabled. I move on. Another point I'd like to raise is this clearly indicates that transport systems, Transport for London, is not fully fit for purpose when it comes to accessibility for disability passengers with physical or hidden disabilities. Another key factor that we found is, however, this is not just a London City problem, but a national crisis that needs urgent and crucial investment and inspection and corrections, actual throughout all the cities in the country. It is not just down to Mr. Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. Management needs to resolve the issues and difficulties faced by disabled passengers when using the outdated and outmoded systems that need true and realistic modernisation, standardisation, trains and stations to make a fully accessible for all its passengers, which it isn't at the moment. We also call for action, and here comes a little shopping list, to be honest. We call on the GMB Congress to actively and positively support the demands of those who self-define as having a disability for a fully accessible public transport system nationally and equally facilitate all of its passengers. Point 2. To promote new thinking and new ways of thinking and ways to improve disability access throughout the new internal and infrastructure programs, ramps and lifts, and mechanical aids, wheelchairs, stair lifts, the list goes on, alongside better trained staff who actually understand and respect the needs of the disabled passengers. And our third point is to lobby Mr. Khan, the Mayor of London, and other mayors nationally for serious improvements to their approach to disability and disabled passengers and the disabled access to all areas in their transport systems. Finally, I would like to say, in supporting this motion, you will ensure that we have a fully accessible and all-inclusive transport system that gives disabled passengers the freedom to travel or anywhere, which they haven't got at the moment, which is not an unreasonable or unrealistic expectation. Please support this motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen.
Esme Chinara, London Region, seconding the Composite 19 accessible transport and vehicles. President Congress, I don't know whether any of you have tried to make a step-free journey across London, but let me tell you, it is not easy. First of all, you have to find the quarter of tube stations that are actually classified as step-free, but some of those are only step-free in one direction. Some of them are step-free for changing tubes, but not for getting out of the tube or getting into the tube. Some of them only have one step-free entrance or exit from a station, so you have to work out which station you're going to get in and which entrance you're going to get out again. And even if you're travelling on the overground, which there's big boasts that that is step-free, you have to request a ramp to get on and off the train, even at the step-free station. So you have to do a lot of planning and a lot of work to get yourself across London. And it's not a reasonable way to expect people to be travelling around. And actually, it means you end up having to have better navigation skills than Bear Grylls to be able to find your way around the London transport network. Disabled drivers and passengers are further disadvantaged when actually they can't get their vehicles or the vehicles they're travelling in into a whole load of roads that have been closed off and made inaccessible to them. The lack of transport accessibility is discriminatory, it's stigmatising and it's isolating, and it has to stop. So Congress, we're calling on yourselves to support this motion. We want the GMB to fully engage in meaningful and timely consultation with leading public transport providers to ensure urgent improvement of disabled access to all areas of public transport, to work alongside Transport for London and others to develop a scheme that allows disabled drivers and passengers to use our streets. And I know this isn't just a problem from London, so this is something that needs to go elsewhere. And in particular, I urge delegates to support the forthcoming ability campaign, Freedom to Travel Anywhere.
Thank you, Esme. Mover of motion 411.
Good evening, President, Congress, and all you visitors. Antonio Perez, London Region, moving motion 411 on licensing of drones. First-time delegates, first-time speaker. I work at Heathrow Airport, and this motion came from our Hayes branch. You will recall earlier this year, flights were suspended at both Heathrow and Gatwick airports due to sighting of drones flying near the airport. As drones stop all movements at airport, the travel plans of hundreds and thousands of passengers was disrupted, and this also affected the work we do at airports. There is no doubt that improper drones use cost millions for the industry, but We need to strengthen the accountability of drones users and their awareness of how to fly their drone safely. As a quick solution, an extended 5 kilometers of on-fly zone for drones came into force around UK airport previously. This was only 1 kilometer, which was clearly not yours. Since we put this motion in, the regulator, the Civil Aviation Authority, CAA, has carried out a consultation on introducing a license fee to cover the cost of operating the new drones registration scheme, and a final decision due in July. It is expected that every drones and model aircraft owner in UK could be charged £16.50 a year from November. Drones owner would have to register their details as a database, and drone flyer will complete a free online safety test. The number of drones users in UK is unknown, but the Civil Aviation Authority estimated 170,000 people will register. We are looking for a strict warning on website to stop drones being bought and operated by children, or they should be only sold from the reputable supplier. But we have heard that membership organization fee, this charge is too high. But what price do you put on safety? Congress, £16.50 a year is cheaper than the cost of fishing license. Our motion calls on government to adopt a minimum operator age of 18 and legislate on remote pilots. The government scheme allows for those aged 18 and over to register as the official drone owner. There will be no fee for remote pilots, those who fly the drones but are not registered owner. We hope that this fee will deter people and save the industry millions. Please, Congress, support. I move.
Brilliant. Well done, Antonio. You just took time. Look at that. Second of them, 411.
President, Congress, sisters and brothers, visitors, I'm Millie Boundy from London Region, seconding motion 411 on the licensing of drones. First-time delegate, first-time speaker. I'm really proud to be on this rostrum and part of this great movement. I also work at Heathrow. As Antonio pointed out, the licensing of drones will assist to regulate the industry better and make people aware of the danger of the lack of understanding of the law and of also their responsibility towards the community. We have lived and heard the scare stories about drones flown around the airports, Heathrow and Gatwick, and the danger to the aircraft and civilians. Scary stories. But I'm sure there will be positive outcomes too. For example, some councils are employing and investing in drones to help them with their vital infrastructure, including roads, pavements, hospitals and schools, and using them to survey traffic congestion. Drones will be part of an incredible future as long as we are on the ball. Whilst welcoming new technology, we need to be mindful and watch companies such as Amazon, who have already trialled parcel delivery. This may replace the jobs of some of our members. To do this, we welcome licensing, but we need the government to keep up with the technology and make sure the system is not abused. I second.
Well done, Millie. Mover of motion 412.
President, Congress. I'm moving motion 412. I'll try and keep it interesting and brief because I know it's late in the day. I'm sure we all agree that we have the right to travel and work on the rail network in safety. When something goes wrong, investigations should be and are carried out to establish the causes of accidents and changes made to infrastructure, rolling stock and working practices to prevent any reoccurrence. A key part of the safety process is reviewing what happened with all the available evidence being made available. It's a misnomer to call them accidents, as this implies it was nobody's fault. These aren't accidents. Using the word accident suggests it just happened, unexpectedly and unintentionally, by chance, without apparent or deliberate cause. Human negligence or oversight are invariably the cause and foreseeable if we choose to look, and avoidable if working environments, equipment, procedures and management are all scrutinised to manage the risk. Everything ought to be done to support the investigation and review process and to rectify the problems which led to any incidents. This scrutiny can only be effective where all the available information is accessible. Although this motion is specific to the Croydon tram crash of 2017, that tragedy was only one of any number of tragedies due to the lack of rigour in the rail industry and associated bodies. And there is, unfortunately, a long history of employers, operating companies and regulatory bodies not being transparent, not going far enough, not moving quickly enough to rectify flaws. And this long history continues. In 2017, a rail accident investigation branch report into a serious irregularity at Cardiff Central revealed that some of the lessons from the 1988 Clapham Junction disaster, where 484 people were injured and 35 killed, revealed that some of these lessons appeared to have been forgotten. A year later, another report into a collision at London Waterloo highlighted similar circumstances, and the report stated some of the lessons learned from the Clapham Junction accident are fading from the railway industry's collective memory. We ask that GMB adds its voice to the calls for the Mayor of London to have an independent review into why Transport for London failed to provide critical tram safety evidence to those bodies investigating a tragedy in which 7 people died and 62 were injured, 19 seriously, and to change the culture at Transport for London that led to this investigation being compromised. Please support this motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Seconder.
President, Congress, Holland, Durant, Southern Region. Seconder to motion 412, Croydon tram crash investigation. Congress, the company running the Croydon tram service has been guilty of running health and safety systems that have been found to be not fit for purpose and have contributed to an accident that cost 7 people their lives, one of which was a GMB member. This tram accident also injured 62 people, 19 of which were serious. First Group Tram Operations Limited, when investigated by the Rail Accident Investigation Branch, were found to have been running safety systems that were not in line with the industry standard. Congress, it's the GMB and other trade unions who lead the fight for high health and safety standards in the workplace and in our communities, and most importantly, within public transport services. Congress would like GMB to support the call for an independent investigation into the safety culture and practices at Transport for London and its outsourced contractors that run transport services in London, and to further review why all information, including fatigue audits, were not sent to accident investigators who were considering the reasons for the Croydon tram tragedy.
Congress, we have a huge amount of health and safety regulations in this country designed to keep workers and the public safe. What we don't have is anyone to enforce those regulations, and employers continually flout the law. Congress, please support. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Does anybody wish to speak in opposition to these motions? Okay.
Sorry guys, I know it's really late. Cindy Gavin, Yorkshire North Derbyshire region. Speaking in slight opposition to motion 411, while I agree with the motion in principle, there's just the bottom line that I don't agree with the minimum operator age of being 18. The International STEM Youth Innovation Competition is an event for students under the age of 18 and is organised by the British International Education Association. It aims to raise the level of technological enthusiasm of students from all over the world, stimulating their passion for science, technology, engineering and maths. The first competition was actually held in the UK last year, and it had a theme of creating a drone for a rescue situation. So limiting the operating age to a minimum of 18 and above would stifle our children's creativity over the stupidity of some people. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. London, do you want the right of reply? No? Okay. Can I ask Martin Jackson then, please, from Yorkshire North Derbyshire, to respond on behalf of the CEC?
President, Congress, the CEC are supporting motions 405, Composite 19, motions 411 and 412, and we're supporting motion 406 with the disqualification. We agree with the principle that local authorities and other public bodies should be compensated for additional costs incurred as a consequence of major projects. And we are sympathetic to Camden's position as a local authority most affected at this time by HS2. Our qualification is to recognise that the GMB policy from previous Congresses is to support HS2. As a manufacturing and construction union, we represent members in a diverse range of industries whose livelihoods may depend on this investment. Further, CEC would seek to reject any suggestion of interpretation of GMB policy that our members are working in support of gentrification. So it's important that these issues are clarified by this qualification. Therefore, the CEC is asking for motion 406 to be supported with this qualification I have laid out. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Motion 405, the CEC are supporting. All in favour, please show. Any against? That's carried. Motion 406, London, do you accept the qualification? Yes? Thank you. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. Composite 19, CEC are supporting. All those in favour, please show. Any against? That's carried. Motion 411, CEC are supporting. All those in favour, please show. Any against? That's carried. And motion 412, the CEC are supporting. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. On my reckoning, we're about half an hour left. If people, and you've been really good this afternoon about keeping to time, so thank you. Can the delegates also get ready to debate the last motion of the day, emergency motion 3 on British Steel and Scunthorpe? Could I have the mover for 201, please?
President, Congress, Will Conway, London Region, moving motion 201, a wage you can live on. Congress. Since the introduction of the minimum wage by Labour in 1998, to massive opposition from the Tories, it has gained general acceptance to the point where it has been hijacked to be a Conservative flagship policy. The trumpeting of the new national minimum wage every November is seized upon by One Nation Tories as a chance to virtue signal their caring credentials. but they've only hijacked the policy without understanding it or wishing to properly advance it as a real tool to combat in-work poverty. In 1998, the relevance of a minimum hourly wage was real. 40 hours was a standard working week, part-time work was to a large degree by choice, and minimum hours contracts were only worked by students. By multiplying the minimum wage by 40, then 52, you get a figure that, in someone's theory, afforded a basic realistic living wage. It didn't really, but that's a different argument. The very fact of its introduction was a major landmark and a massive but belated step in the right direction. Later increases, which brought the figures more in line with what the unions, activists and charities were demanding, made the sum more relevant. Comrades, we now come to the present day. With the rise of the gig economy, bogus self-employment, erosion of benefits and wrecking of workers' rights, the Tories decided to give something back. The national living wage was born in 2016, but it's not the same beast. Despite this apparent great generosity and unemployment being measured at a 44-year low, 14 million people are reckoned by the UN Special Rapporteur to be in poverty. 60% of people in poverty are working families. In 2017, 1.5 million people experienced destitution, meaning they had less than £10 a day after housing costs, or they had to go without at least 2 essentials, such as shelter, food, heat, light, clothing or toiletries during a 1-month period. Food banks are doing a roaring trade. If the amount kept pace with FTSE top 100 CEOs, it would be £7,500 higher, but the Tories' target is only to be 60% of median earnings, a figure itself dragged down by low pay. We need to change the language for one thing. A minimum wage needs to be an amount that can be lived on to an acceptable standard. It needs to be a weekly, monthly or annual amount that will pay that week, month or year's rent, food, power and essentials. There isn't a need to come up with new words. The Joseph Rowntree Foundation promote the various minimum income standards. These provide the research for the basis of a living wage and gives figures for working-age individuals and various families. It is based on what is considered a minimum social standard by a panel of normal people, and this basket of essentials is costed nationally to provide regional figures. When describing employment, only that which is rewarded to minimum income standards should be acceptable. It cannot be right that 0-hours contract staff who work less than a day a week are included in the same financial breath as decently paid full-timers. Employers who fail to comply with the legislation must be brought to book. While 370,000 people on minimum wage contracts are underpaid, our colleague Steph Peacock MP raised an urgent question in Parliament last week, asking why the scheme to name and shame non-compliant employers had been suspended. It also emerged that no employers have been successfully prosecuted. Sorry, that's a bit of an exaggeration. £30 costs were awarded in private prosecution in Jersey. Congress, what I'm calling on you all and our political colleagues to do is use a different language when talking about minimum pay and to challenge the flawed conceits of the minimum wage, which allowed much capitalist self-congratulation while ordinary working people live in poverty and destitution. Society should be providing a minimum income standard and recognising it as such, a minimum. Congress, I propose this motion.
Thank you, Will. Seconder.
Andrew Clark, London Region, seconded motion 201, a wage you can live on. I'm a first-time delegate and it's the last time that I'll be speaking. Right. My daughter is a HR business partner at a famous retail store in central London. When I told her that I intended to second this motion, she said proudly, "Dad, we pay the living London wage." Lucky for her after yesterday, because if they didn't, I'm sure she'd be hearing from me and the GMB family pretty soon. According to the Living Wage campaign, many thousands of businesses have been accredited and are paying more than the government minimum. They are paying employees the real living wage for the real cost of living. Also, they report that 93 of these businesses have been accredited, have benefited. 86% of those businesses say that the reputation of their business has improved. 75% say it has increased motivation and retention rates for employees, and 58% say that it has improved relations between management and staff. So I just have a quick message for ASDA. By now, you would have seen what took place at Congress yesterday. Every region are prepared to take some sort of action, and you heard what our General Secretary had to say. We, your servants, would like a real living wage for the real cost of living, a wage you can live on. We also would like an increase in benefits and not to have them taken away, not a wage that represents what we think is modern-day slavery, and the threat of dismissal if we don't accept your readjusted terms. As I've stated, 86% of those many thousands of businesses that pay a wage that you can live on have seen their reputation improved. Motivation and retention in the business has improved. When I returned to work on Friday morning,
Andrew, I know it's your last time speaking, but you got the red light.
Last bit. If and when the GMB family turn up at your door, not only at Asda House in Leeds, like we did on May the 1st, but at many, many stores all over the country, how will this do for your reputation? How many people will want to be employed by your business? I second this motion too.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to have you as Speaker. Mover of 203.
President, Congress, Darren Greenwood, North Western Irish, first time delegate, first time speaker. Productivity is stalling in the UK, but it is disgusting as one of the world's wealthiest nations we are working the longest hours in Europe. At the same time, the number of days lost to work-related stress and depression is on the increase. I myself work within the manufacturing of pharmaceuticals, legal ones, in which we deal with countries in Europe who themselves work a 4 to 4.5 day week with the ability to produce manufacturing output of 5 days. This is down to the technology we have in 2019. It gives us the ability to produce better machinery, logistics and a manufacturing output. I call on the GMB to campaign for a shorter working week with no loss of income by workplace and sector. I am always told by my manager the workplace balance is important and we should be in a work environment where pressure of work-related stress is reduced, if not eliminated. Reduced hours within the workforce is a way of reducing work-related stress and giving workers a better life. In work, I'm not there for a long time, I'm there for a good time. Thank you.
Well done, Darren. Having to wait so long to make your first speech. Seconder? Formally, brilliant, thank you. Motion of mover of 206.
President, Congress, comrades, back again. Gordon Cullum, London Region, moving motion 206. Right. Up to a third of jobs are under threat in the next couple of decades due to automation and advances in technology, with manual and administration jobs particularly at risk. Jobs are already being lost and replaced, and a huge proportion of our workforce are not seeing the benefits. Only the bosses are seeing the benefits. And it begs the most fundamental question, and that is the one of who owns what. Do we continue to sell off our industries, services and banking to the greasiest hands under the table, or do we take back that collective wealth, the wealth as workers we created, the services we run and the capital we create? While the battle is fought out between us, the Labour movement and the bosses class, it's critical we support all GMB reps to organise and pressure employers and corporates to minimise the negative effects of automation on jobs and to feed into research young GMB members have already conducted. We need to up our campaigning. We know we'll get no favours from the Tories. We know whose side they're on. But as a priority, we need to push for the TUC recommendations, including providing personal training credits to lower paid workers, providing a personal allowance to workers who are made redundant due to automation, and establish a strategy to monitor and respond threats of job losses in the most at risk industries. I move.
Thank you, Gordon. Seconder?
This is the last time you're going to see me today, I promise. So, Rachel Hookway, London Region, seconding motion 206. So, automation is something that poses a risk to many people's jobs. The Office of National Statistics analysed the jobs of 20 million workers in England and found that 7.4% were at high risk of automation. The research also found that younger people are more likely to be in roles that are affected by job automation. Of those younger people who were surveyed, it found that 15.7 were in jobs at higher risk. Young workers already face many issues in the workplace, including insecure and precarious work. The addition of the risk of redundancy on the basis of automation is something that we need to fight. The recommendations in this motion are a massive step in the right direction against the fight. Working together with our young member structures, we can make a difference. Please support.
Brilliant, Rachel, thank you. Mover of 207.
President, Congress, Bob Gunn, North Western Irish, moving motion 207 on the detrimental effects of outsourcing. Congress, manufacturing companies such as Bombardier are currently implementing projects to outsource all non-direct and support functions such as the supply chain, maintenance, IT and engineering, with the sole purpose of increasing profit margins for greedy shareholders and executives. Outsourcing is a direct attack on employees' terms and conditions, and companies are taking advantage of our members. Congress, the problem is that cost-cutting exercise of outsourcing has a massively detrimental impact on terms and conditions of our members. Often well-paid jobs are chipped from companies such as Bombardier to these third-party suppliers who, if we are lucky, pay minimum wage. This means that our members do not see improvements in their contracts for years, and that annual wage increases will be held back until the national minimum wage increases to parity. So the same people continue to do the same job, but for less and less money year on year. This is a race to the bottom for fair remuneration and must be stopped. While our members are told by management that the companies must outsource in order to be competitive, meaning that job and skills are under constant threat, the same logic does not apply to those sitting at the very top of the corporate tree. Just last year, Bombardier had no issue in rewarding their top executives an estimated windfall of $47 million in bonuses. Over the same time frame, we lost more than 1,800 jobs to outsourcing. Congress said it's simply not fair that workers' pay and conditions are compromised to companies for profit. These third-party suppliers often overpromise and underdeliver, ultimately resulting in bankruptcy, as recently seen with companies such as Carillion, leaving workers caught in the crossfire and thousands of jobs in the balance. They tender at the lowest possible price in order to be competitive, and when successful, they then attempt to restore their profit margin, bear with me, by attacking our members' terms and conditions. We urge GMB to encourage a future Labour government to carry out a full review of the CHIPI regulations and to ensure that our members' hard-won terms and conditions are protected. And just one final point, colleagues. This week we have expressed support for our members, quite rightly, in British Steel, Bridgend and Appledore. Our members in Bombardier are also under threat as the company is currently looking for someone to bid to buy the company. I'm sure that this Congress will wish to send a message of support and solidarity to our Bombardier members in Northern Ireland. I move.
Brilliant, Bob. Thank you. Is there a seconder? Thornley, thank you. Does anybody wish to oppose any of those motions? No, the CEC are supporting all of them, so 201, 203, 206, 207. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? They're all carried. We now go on to the emergency motion, Save British Steel, Save Scunthorpe. Can I just make one announcement before you start speaking? The National RAM stall, the raffle prizes have been drawn. Could delegates who have tickets go to the store to collect any won prizes? But many thanks to all those of you who did purchase tickets, because you helped to raise in the region of £1,049 plus £60 for naming the monkey doll. Yeah, excellent. And what's been asked of me of the CC, I'll have to refer that back, but thank you. Sorry? I spotted, don't worry, I've spotted that.
I wonder how long it takes you to notice it. Miles short, Middle and East Coast region. From Scunthorpe, moving emergency motion to save our British Steel. Save Scunthorpe. It's not just British Steel, it's Scunthorpe. You will have seen on the recent shambles of British Steel plant at Scunthorpe in the media. The GMB, thank goodness the GMB, are in the forefront is fighting for the jobs and the livelihoods in Scunthorpe. From GMB organisers Charlotte Church and Dave Osmond, negotiating and campaigning to support members working in local branches, McConley and Dave Lisholes, and of course Tom Watson, the reps on site. Although, I'm sorry if I haven't pronounced the names right, but I'm not very good with names. Although the government are being portrayed as saviours, this government being portrayed as saviours, God help us if they are. God help us. If you speak to members on the ground, you will find redundancy notices have all been issued and a massive uncertainty with a false hope of being given the news. Workers and contractors at Scunthorpe have been through this action previously, many times, which has led to massive redundancies in the workforce. I know, I was one of them. Twice, and it's not funny when you've been made redundant and you stood in a queue of another 2,000 people. It's not funny. It really isn't funny, and it's not nice, and it makes you sick, and you don't know what you're going to do. You don't know how you look at your family and kids and you think, God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? The nearest town of Scunthorpe is nearly 40 miles away. You know, if you're made redundant and you ain't got no money, you can't travel. Nobody gives you an handout or aught like that. I moved to Scunthorpe 40 years ago, and the reason I moved is because I played for the football team. I was proud to play for the football team. I'm proud of Scunthorpe. I love the place. The people are fantastic, and I don't want this to happen. I really don't want it to happen. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll turn the red light off, okay?
Please don't. You're making it. This town of Scunthorpe, a lot of people laugh at it, because if you take the S off and then you look at it, Len, you'll know what I'm talking about. Anyhow, like I was saying, I'm proud to say I'm from there. That's why when I come up and stand up here, I always say I'm from Scunthorpe. A lot of people laugh at me and say, you idiot. And I probably am a bit of a knobhead, but hey, there you go. I don't care.
You're pushing your luck. You really you know that now, don't you?
I'd like to thank you all, because this union is one of the best unions I've ever been in. It's a caring, sharing, and it means a lot to me that I come to conferences and I listen to what we say, and it's fantastic. It starts here, and it spreads all over that floor. You've got people wearing red tops and everything like that. It spreads all over the floor. It's fantastic. I love it. It's like being at a wedding. You know, when you go to, well, we don't have the fight after a wedding, but it's like, it really is. I've had some great nights out with them lot over there. Flipping hell, I can't believe it. Yeah, fine. I tell you what, I got a bit paralytic the night of our do. I really did. I drank a bit too much, to be honest. I went in the bedroom and it was going round, and I was thinking, oh my God, do you know where I woke up? I woke up laid next to my bed, not on the bed, next to it. I don't know how that happened, but hey, I forgot where I was now. Yeah. Recently, proposals for HS2 would mean miles and miles of track which Scunthorpe Steelworks could produce. As Scunthorpe Steel is the best steel in the world, we make railway lines are fantastic. If you look around, you're all sat on chairs what's made of steel. You come down on the train, what are you going travelling on? Steel. So please back this campaign, because once the furnaces are turned off, they'll never be turned on again. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mars. Don't anybody else get any ideas about cups? All right. Oh, no, please, go.
Right, comrades, Tony Davison from Midlands and East Coast region. I'm supporting emergency motion number 3. Comrade President, comrades. In 2016, private equity company Greybull Capital bought Tata Steel for £1. Anyone that's not familiar with the name private equity means vulture capitalism. They're moving, pick any morsels left on the bones, and then get rid, totally regardless of the human cost. By the middle of 2018, having made profits for 2 years, Greybull began to lose money. Greybull required a £120 million government loan to pay for its EU carbon emissions bill. In the High Courts, with debts of £880 million, they requested a further £30 million. This was refused. Comrades, this is a national emergency with 5,000 steel workers' jobs and a further 20,000 jobs in the supply chain, making 25,000 jobs in total. These bloody glasses, I wish they'd stop on. With redundancy and unemployment payments, also the loss of the taxes to the exchequer, means the virtual collapse of the Scunthorpe economy. It would be cheaper to nationalise British Steel, but nationalisation should mean a socialist nationalisation where the working class and society as a whole would benefit. I therefore call on the GMB to demand that TUC organise a mass campaign linking the plight of Scunthorpe steel workers with the Swindon car workers and the Ford workers at Bridgend, mounting such a mass campaign and calling for strike action if it's deemed necessary. This would shake this Tory party to its very foundations. The Tories are in turmoil, in total disarray, and tearing itself apart. What a better opportunity to stick the boot into these leeches. Because they've been sticking the boot into us for long enough. Now I'll bring on to this. The Tories are virtually opposed to nationalisation. But what do you remember that word quantitative easing? Well, I'll tell you what quantitative easing was. It was nationalising the bankers' debt. And we get numbered with the bill when our vital public services cut to the bone. That's what, it's us that's paying the bankers' bill. And the obscenity, comrades, is them that crash the economy are still stuffing millions into the pockets in bonuses. With the Tories' mantra was, we're all in this together. We're all in this together, are we? Well, printed in this year's Sunday Times Rich List, get your pens handy, you'll need your pens handy. The top 1,000 wealthiest individuals and families in Britain are sitting on a record, wait for it, £771.3 billion. Yes, I said billions. This is up 47.8 billion since last year. But you can be rest assured, comrades, we're all in this together. I'll finish on this point. It doesn't have to be like this. There is an alternative. It's called the socialist alternative. And it's vital we get Corbyn into number 10. And we can start with that socialist transformation society. And we can condemn the Tories and their system to the dustbin of history. We can get rid of them forever. There, I thank you, comrades. Thank you.
Yeah, well, two brilliant speeches to end on. This. Oh, but he hasn't finished yet. No. Nobody's in opposition, are they? We're not taking ACC speakers, so because we're supporting this motion, all those in favour, please show. Two hands up, two hands up. Anybody against? That's carried. That's it. Thank you, Congress. Thank you for starting early. We finished late, but tomorrow you've got to lie until 9:30. See you then. Hooray! Oh, and please don't leave any bags in the hall tonight. I'll do the spin then. Oh, yeah. The domestic